If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 41. Boom, boom, boom. It felt like the world was collapsing. The aftershocks of the wind release, Rasen Shuriken continued to ravage the area. Even those outside its range had to retreat several steps before barely stabilizing themselves. Shizuan, full of concern, looked up. She saw a huge, battered toad descending from the sky. Even though I'm quite useless, I'll work on that. But Jiraiya, this time it really hurt. The painful voice came from the purple-red giant toad. Gamaken, who had responded to Jiraiya's summoning, hadn't even understood what was happening before feeling like a heavy hammer had struck it. Always an honest toad, Gamaken couldn't help but complain to Jiraiya for the first time. Looking at Gamaken's usually indestructible shield now in tatters, Jiraiya scratched his head awkwardly. Sorry. I didn't have time to warn you this time, Gamaken. If Gamabunta had heard Jiraiya say there would be a next time, he would have surely whacked him with his pipe. But Gamaken was an honest toad. Hearing Jiraiya's promise, its anger dissipated. It lifted its only intact weapon, a trident, and asked, "So, the enemy is that strange man over there?" Amidst the familiar flying paper scraps, Jensu's right arm, shattered by the Rasen Shuriken, was rapidly regenerating. Yes. Jiraiya nodded solemnly, we need to deal with him quickly. Understood. Gamaken nodded, its powerful frog legs leaping towards Jensu. Jensu didn't confront it head-on. He flickered and disappeared from the spot. Boom. In the next second, Gamaken landed heavily. Dust flew, and the ground trembled. There he is. Jiraiya quickly spotted Jensu and clapped his hands. Toad flattening technique. Above Jensu, another massive Miboko toad named Gamatsu descended, aiming to crush him. Although Jensu dodged again, the impact from Gamatsu's landing sent him flying. Great opportunity. Gamaken raised its trident, sweeping towards Jensu. Gamatsu didn't waste time either, drawing two massive ninja swords from its back and slashing at Jensu. Jiraiya knew well that against Jensu in his current state, large summonings were more effective than ninjutsu. Of course, Sage mode would be the best. However, with his half-baked level, entering Sage mode would take too long and was not suitable now. Watching Gamaken and Gamatsu unleash their might, Naruto felt the urge to join. Pervy Sage, I'll summon the big toad boss to help you. Jiraiya didn't refuse and even added, no need to help me. Have Bunta take you and Shizuan to Tsunade. Jiraiya decided to hold off Jensu himself. With Bunta's help, they could greatly assist Tsunade. Got it. After several setbacks with Jensu, Naruto finally realized he couldn't help much. He obediently bit his finger. Summoning Jutsu. Boom. White smoke billowed. Come on out, big toad boss. Naruto shouted enthusiastically. Then, a small tadpole plop on the ground. What? Naruto, in disbelief, held his head in his hands, his mouth agape. Shizuan, ready to move, froze with a smile. Jiraiya was also stunned. A familiar formula, a familiar taste. Jensu, being attacked by Gamaken and Gamatsu, also noticed the humorous scene. He had to admit, this was the familiar feel of Hokage he knew. Blushing for once, Naruto hurriedly sent the tadpole back, unwilling to give up, and tried summoning again, big toad boss, come out. Boom. Hey, Naruto. Amid the rising white smoke, Gamabunta's son, the yet-to-grow-up Gamatsu, waved at Naruto. Jiraiya averted his eyes, fearing he'd lash out. At this moment, having restrained the two toads with earth release, Jensu turned his head and reminded, just to remind you, Tsunade's hemophobia just triggered. Jiraiya and Shizuan's expressions hardened. Not wasting time to verify Jensu's words, Shizuan, anxious, was about to rush to Tsunade. Summoning Jutsu. White smoke billowed again, and with a giant pipe in its mouth and bandages wrapped around its waist, Gamabunta, looking like a Yakuza boss, finally appeared on Naruto's third attempt. Why is it you again, kid? And Gamatsu, what are you doing here? The grumpy Gamabunta, enjoying a post-nap smoke, grumbled. Hey, Dad! Gamatsu greeted from atop Gamabunta's head. Big toad boss! Naruto, excited, was about to explain. Jiraiya, finally seeing the right summoning, said in the simplest terms, Bunta, go to Tsunade. She needs your help. More familiar and in sync with Jiraiya, Gamabunta didn't hesitate. I smell that damn snake. Without delay, letting Shizun climb up, Gamabunta leaped 100 meters in one bound. I can't let you succeed. Jensu, retreating swiftly, formed hand seals. Earth release, great moving earth core. Boom. The ground shook violently. Just as Gamabunta was about to leap again, a massive chunk of earth rose in front, blocking its way. Bam, it collided head-on. That was just the start. Under Jensu's jutsu, the ground in this area transformed into grid-like sections, rising and falling irregularly, creating obstacles and preventing the three toads from leaping. Slow down, big toad boss. Dodging left and right, Naruto would have been thrown off if Shizun hadn't grabbed him. Gamabunta, slicing through a rock wall with his short sword, replied impatiently, "You want us to be pancake fillings." Nearby, seeing this, Jiraiya tightened his brow, ready to launch a long-range attack to interrupt Jensu's jutsu. But remembering Jensu's mastery of dark release, he regretted neglecting his sage training and charged in himself. Unlike the large toads, Jiraiya moved nimbly within the unstable ground, quickly approaching Jensu. Noticing Jiraiya's agility, Jensu maintained his jutsu while eyeing Gamatsu's large swords. Clang! In the next second, the huge, cold blades descended towards Jiraiya. Chapter 41. My swords. Caught off guard while dodging the great moving earth core, Gamatsu saw his two giant ninja swords suddenly flying out of his hands as if they had a mind of their own, slashing towards Jiraiya. "Jiraiya, watch out!" Gamatsu shouted in warning. Jiraiya looked up, seeing the two giant swords, much larger than himself, reflecting in his pupils. Magnet release. Slice. Slice. The massive swords pierced several meters into the ground like cutting through butter. Barely dodging, Jiraiya attempted to move past them, but the giant swords, humming, swiftly rose and slashed at him again like dragons. It wasn't until Gamatsu managed to press down on his weapons that Jiraiya, now unobstructed, could continue searching for Jensu. However, he found that Jensu had vanished within the maze-like terrain of the great moving earth core. Jensu's goal was never to defeat Jiraiya, but to obtain the spirit transformation technique. Throughout the encounter, his actual clashes with Jiraiya were minimal, preserving his strength to hold off everyone. Just like now. Not giving Jiraiya a chance to engage, Jensu specifically hindered Gamabunta and the others, who would need considerable time to break through his obstructions. But time was the most critical factor now. Time is running out. If you don't decide soon, Tsunade will be in grave danger. Actually, she already is. Jensu's voice echoed clearly in everyone's ears. Let me show you the life situation. Water release, reflecting mirror. As his words fell, a giant water mirror formed in the air. Jiraiya and the others looked up, seeing Tsunade's current situation displayed on the mirror's surface. Before acting, Jensu had sent a shadow clone to hide near Tsunade and Orochimaru's meeting place to relay real-time information. They could see Tsunade, trembling and powerless, a far cry from her usual strong and heroic self. Her state was due to Kabuto deliberately splashing blood on her. Who would have thought that the most famous medical ninja in the world would be afraid of blood? With a mocking smile, Kabuto attacked Tsunade relentlessly while she struggled to defend herself, looking extremely vulnerable. If Orochimaru didn't need Tsunade to heal his arms, she might have fallen here. Fight back, Granny Tsunade. Naruto, unable to believe the same kunoichi who had easily KO'd him now seemed so fragile, clenched his fists, shouting encouragement. Tsunade. Jiraiya fell silent. Tsunade-sama. Shizun was filled with anxiety. Knowing full well that this was Tsunade's hemophobia at its worst, she looked at Kabuto with killing intent, desperate to reach Tsunade. Hand over the spirit transformation technique, and I'll let you go. Seeing the timing was right, Jensu appeared in front of Shizun, issuing his final ultimatum. Between the spirit transformation technique and Tsunade-sama's life, you know which is more important. You bastard! Naruto glared at Jensu with fury. Despite his anger, he didn't rush in recklessly as usual. Even Naruto understood the dire situation. Seeing Naruto's reaction, Jiraiya sighed, no longer refusing. Shizun, witnessing her master in distress, didn't hesitate. Here! With a bang, white smoke rose, and Shizun summoned an ancient scroll, tossing it to Jensu. Jensu caught it, examining the aged appearance, feeling reassured. In such a short time, Shizuan wouldn't have had the chance to forge a convincing fake. Indeed. Jensu quickly perused the scroll. With his deep knowledge of ninjutsu, he confirmed it was the spirit transformation technique. Can we leave now? Shizuan asked urgently. Jensu nodded, ceasing his jutsu, and stepped aside, gesturing invitingly. Please. Jiraiya gave Jensu a long look. Choosing not to engage further, he quickly instructed the Toad brothers. Soon, the Toad trio, carrying Jiraiya, Shizuan, and Naruto, leaped rapidly towards Tsunade. Watching their retreating figures, Jensu smiled. Thanks, Orochimaru. He truly owed Orochimaru. Without his threat to Tsunade's life, Shizuan wouldn't have handed over the spirit transformation technique. As for coercion or enticement, Tsunade had refused even the condition to revive her lover and brother. Other offers were out of the question. Moreover, Tsunade, with her fierce nature, would rather choose mutual destruction than allow herself to be used to threaten Shizuan. The success was due to Orochimaru's timely intervention and the fact that Tsunade and Shizuan were in separate locations. After genuinely thanking the selfless Orochimaru, Jensu lost interest in watching the reunion of the legendary Sunin or finding out if Tsunade overcame her hemophobia or if Naruto mastered the Raise Nan in a new way. With everything ready, it was time to return and complete his goal. I'm tired of this Edo Tensei body. A breeze passed by. Jensu vanished. The once lively battlefield fell silent. Valley of the End. Located in the northeast of the Land of Fire, geographically close to the Land of Hot Water. After leaving Tanzaku town and distancing himself from the escalating battle of the Sunin, Jensu headed to the Valley of the End as fast as possible. The forbidden technique, Eternal Sleep Breath, provided great concealment but only in the burial site. Taking it out would expose it. To be safe, Jensu had left his body buried in the Valley of the End as it had been for decades. Without any delays, traveling day and night, Jensu quickly returned to the Valley of the End. The two grand statues, unchanged by decades of wind and rain, still faced each other. Everything seemed the same as when he had left. Except for the few hidden rats. Leaf Shinobi? They found this place. Noticing the hidden watchers retreating to report, Jensu's eyes chilled, ready to eliminate them. Suddenly, an unexpected change occurred before him. Raising an eyebrow, Jensu paused, curious. Until the change concluded. Jensu eyed the newcomer boldly, smirking. Interesting. Chapter 42. Scarlet blood sprayed out as the blade was withdrawn. You. The Cloud Ninja, wearing a forehead protector, stared in disbelief at the person behind him. Before he could say anything more, he collapsed to the ground with a look of shock, despair, and concern. This was just the beginning. The sound of the blade slicing through the air quickly followed. After a few muffled sounds of surprise, everything fell silent again. Jensu, who had been preparing to act, stood still, his gaze filled with meaning as he looked at the sole remaining figure. Step. 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 The person, sheathing her blood-stained short blade, walked toward Jensu. When she was only 2 meters away, she knelt down on one knee, her cold and beautiful face lowered, her usually steady voice now tinged with rare excitement and admiration. Hagoromo Han, greets the clan leader. Hagoromo, clan leader. It's been a long time since I heard that title. A trace of nostalgia flashed in Jensu's eyes. He looked down at the woman before him, with her exceptionally fair skin and tall, voluptuous figure, which did not lose to Tsunade at all. He did not immediately believe her but calmly asked. Prove. Without hesitation, the blonde woman pulled down her light grey mesh armor, exposing a very eye-catching patch of snow-white skin to the air. As the woman's chakra operated in a special way, a red mark quickly appeared on her previously smooth and white skin under Jensu's gaze. Jensu's eyes lit up. There was no mistake, the woman before him was indeed a member of the Hagoromo clan. After becoming the clan leader, Jensu had created a secret technique that used a unique chakra operation method to reveal identity marks to ensure the safety of scattered clan members. This was to verify identities among his spies spread out in the world. As for the design of the mark, it was just a little personal amusement. Jensu's demeanor became much friendlier as he asked. Does every clan member now have this mark? The blonde woman, Hagoromo Han, also known as Samui, respectfully replied, yes, clan leader. Following the crisis response plan you left behind, the Hagoromo clan has scattered across the ninja world. To ensure identity verification and secure communication, the elders have used the mark you developed on every clan member, passing it down through the bloodline. Jensu understood, so, you are part of the branch hidden in the Cloud Village. Samui nodded, in the Cloud Village, my name is Samui. Samui. Jensu once again scrutinized the tall, fair-skinned and cold woman kneeling before him, who looked nothing like the typical people of the Land of Lightning. No wonder she didn't resemble most cloud ninjas, she had the blood of the Hagoromo clan. As for whether her complexion would draw attention in the Cloud Village, the Land of Lightning wasn't a closed-off country. With people coming and going, and since there were also fair-skinned individuals within the country, it wouldn't raise suspicions. Stand up and tell me about the situation of the Hagoromo clan over the past few decades. Jensu commanded, then added, and put your clothes back on. Samui, feeling no shame about her revealed skin, glanced at her significant burden that always made her shoulders ache. She didn't care much but still complied and covered herself up. Every member of the Hagoromo clan had been taught about the illustrious deeds of the most remarkable and powerful clan leader, Hagoromo Gensou, from a young age. Including Samui, the Hagoromo clan members scattered throughout the ninja world revered Gensou immensely. Thus, upon hearing that the legendary clan leader had appeared in Konoha, the Hagoromo clan, always loyal to their true identity and hidden in the shadows, quickly mobilized. Samui had joined the cloud search team and, upon discovering Jensu, without hesitation, turned her blade on her cloud comrades to ensure the clan leader's safety. If she didn't mind exposing her identity, she certainly wouldn't care about revealing her skin, especially in front of him. If given the chance, she would even be willing to serve him personally, a supreme honor for the descendants of Hagoromo. Just like how the Hokage was to Konoha. For the Hagoromo clan, Jensu held an unimaginable position in their hearts, further cemented by their blood ties. Speaking of which, it's necessary to mention the greatest failure, Uchiha Madara. Being a clan leader to his extent was unparalleled. Even the most hawkish Uchiha Setsuna, who sought to overthrow the second Hokage Tobirama, didn't follow him, showing just how poorly he led his clan. The time was still early. Within the Valley of the End, aside from a cloud ninja team that met their end, there were no other outsiders. In front of the Hagoromo Gensou statue, the actual Gensou listened attentively to Samui's recounting of the Hagoromo clan's history over the past decades. After being hit by a truck and coming to this familiar yet strange Naruto world, Jensu had adopted a more carefree attitude. Did he not know that killing those noblemen would bring retribution? Of course, he knew. But having lived a mundane life before, seeing various distressing things but only being able to curse them silently, he couldn't do anything, barely having enough money and worried about bringing trouble to himself and his family. He had lived an extremely mediocre life. Given a second chance, especially with the power he now possessed, should he continue living like that? As a famous captain wisely put it, if the army didn't come, you bullied me. If the army came, you still bullied me. Then what the hell was the army for? Changing perspectives, Jensu decided he had to live freely and unburdened, to make the most of this second chance. Therefore, when the Five Kage attacked him without warning, he was only initially furious. He didn't harbor the intense hatred others expected, nor did he vow to bathe the 5 great shinobi villages in blood repeatedly, sparing no one. Victory and defeat are part of the game. They seized the opportunity to strike him down. Jensu could accept this calmly. Of course. Just as a goose leaves a trace, so does a person. As an outsider, time had ingrained certain things into Jensu's heart. For example, the Hagoromo clan. As their leader, Jensu, worried about his potential demise, had left several contingencies for the Hagoromo clan. The most crucial being their survival in a drastically changed ninja world. Powerful clans like the Senju, Uchiha, Uzumaki, Kagaya, and Yuki, who dominated the Warring States period, had disappeared by the village era. Knowing the plot, Jensu had planned a new path for the Hagoromo clan. It seemed his descendants had followed his plans well. Chapter 43. After your death, Hashirama returned your belongings to the clan. The elders then followed your emergency plan, quietly dispersing the clan members across the various countries in the ninja world, using new identities prepared in advance to infiltrate and develop. Samui's cool voice detailed the Hagoromo clan's experiences over the past few decades. Jensu nodded after listening. It must be said that Hashirama was quite magnanimous. Afterward, he returned Jensu's belongings to the Hagoromo clan and didn't think of exterminating them to eliminate all future threats. Instead, he allowed the Hagoromo clan to continue existing and even instructed Konoha not to antagonize them. Had it been the more ruthless Tobirama or any of the other Kage, they would have seized an opportunity to eliminate such a ticking time bomb. But one cannot always rely on others. The elders of the Hagoromo clan, influenced by Jensu's teachings, quickly decided to disperse the clan to ensure their survival. Without Jensu's protection, the Hagoromo clan, though still a formidable force, was no match for the five great nations, which had integrated numerous ninja clans and boasted vast armies of both elite and average, cannon fodder, ninjas. Especially after Jensu had killed the first Mizukage and severely injured the first Raikage, there was no guarantee that these factions wouldn't hold grudges and seek revenge. Indeed, as anticipated, many hostile forces eyed the Hagoromo clan covetously. Had the Hagoromo clan not evacuated in time, they might have faced the same fate as the Uzumaki clan, complete destruction, with survivors scattered. The Uzumaki clan, despite having their own country, an independent ninja village, and an alliance with Konoha, still couldn't withstand external pressures and were ultimately annihilated. The Hagoromo clan, while not as renowned for their sealing techniques as the Uzumaki, had centuries of accumulated wealth and knowledge that would undoubtedly attract greedy adversaries. Though they suffered significant economic losses by leaving behind their ancestral land and immovable assets, they survived and even thrived by integrating into various nations and leveraging the power of major ninja villages. Members like Samui, who held significant positions in the Cloud Village, or similar examples in Konoha, Iwa, Suna, and even Kiri, showed that the Hagoromo clan had not only survived but also prospered. So, one should never judge the merits of a situation solely by its immediate impact. Jensu thought of the time when Hashirama invited the Hagoromo clan to join Konoha alongside the Senju and Uchiha clans to build a better future. He shook his head. Hashirama, did you ever imagine Konoha would end up like this? Clan leader, are you really back this time? Having explained the situation of the Hagoromo clan and the information she had gathered, Samui couldn't hold back her long-suppressed question. She looked at Jensu's cracked face, full of hope. Jensu glanced at the scroll of the spirit transformation technique in his hand and nodded slightly, almost. Samui's cold face lit up with excitement. She knelt again, asking, "Clan leader, what do you need us to do?" "The Hagoromo clan will always be your weapon and shield." Jensu hadn't expected members of the Hagoromo clan to appear here. His plan was to seek out the clan after his resurrection. He had even prepared himself for the possibility that the clan might be struggling or even destitute. Unexpectedly, the clan seemed to be doing quite well without his leadership. "Continue as you are." Recently returned and still unfamiliar with the current situation, Jensu decided not to change anything for now. He then looked at the 3 Cloud Ninja corpses nearby and chuckled, "The Cloud Ninjas are quite proactive, coming all the way here." It wasn't surprising for Konoha ninjas to be here, as this was their territory. But Jensu hadn't expected Cloud Ninjas to travel such a distance to snoop around, even sending a team to the Valley of the End to try their luck. Samui explained, "The Cloud Ninjas have always harbored resentment over the first Raikage's severed arm. Upon hearing of your reappearance, the 4th Raikage quickly dispatched many ninjas to search for you, seeking revenge for their ancestors' injury. As I understand it, the Cloud Ninjas are contributing the most to this search among the 5 great villages. The first Raikage had such an impulsive character. It's no surprise that the Cloud Ninjas he led still follow the same pattern decades later." Jensu shook his head lightly. "If they haven't learned their lesson, it's time for a reminder." "Samui." "Yes." Samui promptly bowed, awaiting orders. Jensu instructed, "Notify the Raikage and tell him I'm here." "Yes." Samui hesitated slightly but didn't question the order, nodding in agreement. "And?" Jensu glanced at her, drawing a kunao, "You're too clean." With that, he swiftly slashed. Blood flowed freely. Samui grunted but remained still as the kunao pierced her. "This will do." Having fat can be advantageous, the attack meant to hit her heart fell just short. "Go." Jensu waved her off. Samui respectfully bowed and, clutching her wound, swiftly disappeared from the Valley of the End. With hands behind his back, Jensu's gaze shifted from Samui's departing figure to the statue of himself. A grand re-entry into the ninja world deserved a fitting audience. Since the Cloud Ninjas were so eager to meet him, he would use them to formally announce his return to the ninja world. Only gods should be directly beheld by mortals. Someone akin to a god should be treated likewise. After Samui left, Jensu cremated the cloud ninja corpses, then leaped to the top of his statue, sat down, and opened the scroll of the spirit transformation technique, studying it intently. The cloud ninjas wouldn't arrive immediately after receiving the message. Jensu had ample time to learn the spirit transformation technique and complete his resurrection. Although his notion of ample time differed vastly from others. As now, what would take others weeks, months, or even years to master, Jensu had almost grasped after reading and attempting the S-rank technique a few times. With the formula, the answer, and the detailed process laid out before him, learning it was quite straightforward. Wasn't it? It's time to complete the final step. Jensu rose, resolute in his decision. Chapter 44. Reveal. Once again, the body encased in the forbidden technique, eternal slumber emerged from the ground. Unlike before, this time Jensu, with unwavering hands, formed the seal of the tiger and uttered a low command. Forbidden technique, release. The black membrane covering the body instantly glowed. Soon, the membrane split apart, transforming into tadpole-like black symbols that swiftly traversed the body's surface. Before long, they all congregated at the heart, forming a black tomo. With a sudden leap, the black tomo detached from the body, rose into the air, and evaporated rapidly under Jensu's gaze, disappearing completely. Jensu knew this signified the complete dissolution of the forbidden technique, eternal slumber. Thump! Thump! The powerful beating of a heart echoed throughout the Valley of the End. It was as if a terrifying entity was awakening from its slumber. In that instant, all the insects, birds, and beasts within the valley fell silent, rendering the entire area eerily quiet. Jensu looked down. His own body, unobstructed, lay fully revealed before him. It was as if the most intense battle had just ended. His body was covered with countless wounds, some so severe that his chest had a large cavity, exposing both flesh and bone, with blood continuously seeping from various parts. Despite this, Jensu could feel a strong, oppressive aura emanating from his body, exuding a sense of defiance and dominance. Moreover, the chakra within his reanimated body seemed to activate autonomously, as if responding to an immense threat, causing an involuntary reaction. So this is my true body. Even though it was gravely injured, it was still brimming with life. Jensu looked at his heart beating, blood flowing, and his rosy skin, his eyes full of anticipation. It's time. Knowing that his body wouldn't remain in this state for long, he quickly formed hand seals. Spirit transformation technique. After a few moments, Jensu completed the final seal. As the technique took effect, Jensu felt a powerful force accelerating his soul. It was as if an infinite energy source could send him anywhere instantly. With a flash of determination in his eyes, Jensu's soul left his body. Ignoring the rift to the underworld that appeared overhead, Jensu's soul, propelled by the spirit transformation technique, moved with unparalleled speed, breaking free of its constraints and merging seamlessly with his long-awaited true body. Like a swallow returning home. With a swish, Jensu's soul fused perfectly with his body, without the slightest hindrance. The next moment, his unblemished right index finger twitched slightly. Then, as if responding to a command from his central nervous system, the fingers moved sequentially. Clumps of dirt fell from his hand. His right hand, clutching the earth, slowly rose to his now open eyes. Jensu opened his eyes. Looking at his hand and feeling the wet dirt, he smiled. Yes. This is the feeling. Jensu clutched his heart with his other hand. Thump. Thump. Since his reanimation, it was the first time he had felt his heart beating so vividly. Looking at the fresh blood on his hand, Jensu couldn't contain his joy, laughing maniacally. The taste of blood. The feeling of pain. Ha ha ha. This is my true body. I can finally shine with the full glory of the Hagoromo clan. Ha ha ha. Only by experiencing it firsthand can one truly understand. At that moment, Jensu fully comprehended the elation and joy Madara felt upon his resurrection during the Fourth Great Ninja War. The brilliance of life is something everyone who has tasted death yearns for. Now, Jensu clenched his fists, feeling the surge of power. Even though he was severely injured, with his chakra greatly diminished, and intense pain from all over his body, he reveled in the feeling. This feeling, so different from the reanimated body, so full of life. After a while, Jensu finally calmed down. Not minding the blood flowing from his wounds, he shook his head, donned a black cloak, and covered himself. Having done all this, he looked at his reanimated body still standing before him. Yes. The reanimated body had not yet dissipated, reverting to the original sacrifice. Moreover, his spirit transformation technique was still active. Jensu knew why. After thoroughly reading the spirit transformation technique scroll, he understood that the technique didn't entirely detach the soul from the body. Jensu had speculated this before. If the spirit transformation technique allowed the soul to move freely, Dan wouldn't have died. At the very least, he could have survived in his soul form for some time. Additionally, during the Fourth Great Ninja War, reanimated Dan could have used the spirit transformation technique to escape the reanimation's control rather than briefly meeting Tsunade before returning to the underworld. The spirit transformation technique has its limitations. When the soul leaves the body for assassination, possession, or message transmission, a small part remains as an anchor, ready to pull the soul back to prevent disorientation. In the Fourth Great Ninja War, reanimated Dan Kato's soul didn't get pulled into the underworld because part of it was anchored to the reanimated body. The same applied now. A small part of Jensu's soul remained in the reanimated body. When the spirit transformation technique ended, his main soul would uncontrollably return to the reanimated body. Jensu couldn't change this. Changing the foundation of the spirit transformation technique would create a new soul technique, which was almost impossible. So, Jensu shook his head. Doubt Orochimaru, understand Orochimaru, become Orochimaru. First, solve the immediate issue, the rest can wait. Jensu steadied himself and, before the spirit transformation technique ended, clapped his hands and coldly commanded. Sever. Instantly. His soul split. A fragment of his soul detached from the main. Jensu looked up, enduring the pain of soul separation, and stared at the reanimated body. With a rustling sound, paper scraps flew around. The soul fragment replaced the main soul, pulled into the underworld. The reanimated body collapsed. In its place lay an unfamiliar sound ninja corpse. It's over. Jensu looked up, raising his hand to shield his eyes from the sun. Feeling no threat from the underworld, he smiled brightly. No matter the challenges, Jensu had truly resurrected. Chapter 45. Throughout the millennium of the ninja world's history, even the mightiest like Hashirama and those with the noble blood of Indra and Ashura could not escape the literal death. But who could die and be resurrected, who could live another life before today? No one. Today, Jensu created an unprecedented feat. Even though it wasn't as perfect as Madara's later resurrection using the Rhine rebirth technique, it was still extraordinary. Without the cheat like Rinnegan, Jensu managed to resurrect himself, an achievement far exceeding the hacking ability of Madara. Hashirama, Ritu, Ai, Ishikawa, and that despicable Tobirama. You guys can watch with wide eyes from the underworld as I live again with vibrancy and color. Ninja world, here I come. Jensu's eyes shone brightly. He suddenly turned his head towards the horizon where several black dots were getting closer. He smirked, celebrating a lone lax flavor. Perfect. The witnesses have arrived as expected. The news of Samui's team being attacked, with only her severely injured returning, quickly reached the ears of the fourth Raikage, Ai. Trusting the authenticity of Samui's report about Jensu Hagoromo at the Valley of the End, the fourth Raikage Ai put down his dumbbells, donned his Raikage cloak, and ordered his female secretary, Mabi, with a resolute voice. Mabi, prepare the heavenly transfer technique. Yes, Mabi sighed inwardly. Although she felt it was unnecessary, she couldn't disobey the Raikage's orders. After all, this Raikage was the type who would personally lead a team into another village to steal a coveted secret technique, not caring about his reputation as Raikage. He was the complete opposite of the third Hokage, who was more of a politician than a ninja, always entrenched in the politics of the hidden leaf. Soon, Mabi prepared the ritual for the heavenly transfer technique. As a space-time ninjutsu usually used for transporting objects, the fourth Raikage Ai was among the few who could withstand its side effects. With a flash of white light, the fourth Raikage vanished from his office and reappeared at a secret cloud ninja base near the Fire Country's border. Yoe, why are you here? Killer B, who was enthusiastically writing new rap lyrics, noticed the arrival and greeted him with dance-like movements. In the past, the fourth Raikage Ai might have reprimanded B to focus on training instead of getting deeper into rap. But now, with a more important goal in mind, he said solemnly, this time, I will lead the mission myself. Cloud ninjas, being more united than other villages, acted with great efficiency. Upon hearing the news of Jensu's appearance, they wasted no time. Besides sending out various teams to gather intelligence, they had a special elite unit led by the Eight Tails Jinchuriki on standby at the Fire Country's border. Once Jensu was found, they were to act immediately. But the fourth Raikage had a sudden urge to join them this time. Move out! Valley of the End! AI ordered decisively. Yes. All the elite cloud ninjas, including Killer Bee, had no objections and were rather used to such situations. Having been led by the Raikage on numerous missions, they were familiar with the procedure. As previously mentioned, the Valley of the End, located within the Fire Country, was near the border of the Hot Springs Country, which was close to the Land of Lightning. The Cloud Ninja unit, having awaited orders nearby, quickly moved towards the Valley of the End once the fourth Raikage joined them. Though they were fast, Jensu Hagoromo was faster. Having everything prepared, and needing a warm-up to get familiar with his body and announce his return to the ninja world, Jensu Hagoromo had set the stage. As he had expected, the curtain rose right on time. Whoosh! 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 The sound of rapid movement filled the Valley of the End. Standing in the sunlight, Jensu raised his eyelids and scanned the area. The Eight Tails Jinchuriki and the fourth Raikage AI. The AB combo is here in person, as expected of cloud ninjas. Jensu hadn't expected such a grand lineup. In the eyes of others, he was merely in the state of Edo Tensei, far weaker than before. Yet, the cloud ninjas had come in full force, taking no chances. Very well. Let's see if the fourth Raikage is as tough as the first Raikage. The mountain wind howled, whipping the black cloak draped over Jensu. At the same time, boom! With powerful legs hitting the ground, the fourth Raikage, wearing a white cloak, a broad belt, and heavy wrist guards, appeared before Jensu Hagoromo, leading the Cloud Ninja squad. In the next second, his white cloak billowing behind him, the fourth Raikage AI glared fiercely at the man who seemed to be waiting for them, and coldly said, "You killed my men and are waiting here for us. Hagoromo Gensu, do you, a man who has already died, still think you are the one who stood alongside gods? Standing alongside gods? No. My dream has always been to surpass the gods." Jensu spoke from his heart, slowly lowering his black hood to reveal a face well known and recorded in all major ninja village archives. Surpass gods? Such arrogance! With just... Wait! The fourth Raikage AI, having glanced at Jensu's face, was about to continue when he noticed something off. He stopped speaking abruptly, his tiger-like eyes widened as he stared at Jensu. After a few moments, he finally noticed what was wrong. Fixing his gaze on Jensu's flawless, lifelike face, the fourth Raikage eye was filled with surprise. Wasn't it said that those reanimated with Edo Tensei looked different from normal people? Could it be? The fourth Raikage thought of an unbelievable answer. No. Impossible. Perhaps he was mistaken. Could it be an extremely advanced transformation technique? The fourth Raikage hurriedly ordered the sensory ninja beside him. The sensory ninja quickly formed hand seals. Soon, he shook his head, indicating no signs of a transformation technique. The fourth Raikage's face darkened. Slow-witted Killer Bee had no idea what was happening and why his brother seemed so tense. He was about to ask. Inside him, the Eight Tails Jayaki suddenly spoke in an unusually serious tone. Be extremely careful of that man. He is very, very, very dangerous. Chapter 46. New fanfic is out. Marvel, I started by containing SCPs. As the Eight Tails, Jayaki used 3 very to remind Killer Bee, showing how deeply it feared Jensu. Killer Bee was taken aback. In all these years, it was the first time he heard Jayaki speak in such a tone. Even his older brother, whom Jayaki deemed almost on par with the third Raikage, did not elicit such fear. The third Raikage had personally cut off one of Gyuki's horns, and yet the Eight Tails did not show such dread. Yes, dread. As his close companion, Killer Bee could feel the agitation within Jayaki, even though Jensu was just standing there without making a move. Killer Bee couldn't understand. Though Jensu was famous during his lifetime, he was now in the Edo Tensei state. With his and his brother's strength, there was no need to fear him. Why was Jayaki reacting so strongly? Look at his appearance. Jayaki reminded. Killer Bee looked again. Unexpectedly young and, like himself, very handsome. What was the issue? Killer Bee was about to blurt out a question when suddenly a thought crossed his mind. Killer Bee rubbed his chin. I remember intelligence mentioning that people in the Edo Tensei state have cracked appearances. Wait. Why does this guy look completely different from the description? Killer Bee finally realized, clapping his hands and pointing at Jensu in astonishment. You just noticed. Jensu shifted his gaze from Killer Bee to the fourth Raikage, AI. Noticing AI's grave expression, Jensu smiled slightly. Still in denial? AI, let's stick to calling you fourth Raikage. Deep down, you already have the answer. Isn't that right, fourth Raikage? No. This can't be true. The fourth Raikage clenched his massive fists, his eyes sharply focused on Jensu, scrutinizing every detail. You've been dead for over 50 years. How can you possibly be resurrected? No one can do that. If Jensu had truly been resurrected, it would be a massive earthquake for the ninja world. The fourth Raikage did not want to see this happen. But sometimes, things don't go as one wishes. Seeing the same expression of disbelief on the faces of the surrounding cloud ninjas, Jensu shook his head and calmly said. Mortals are mortals not because their limits are set high but because they set limits for themselves. What others cannot do, doesn't mean I cannot. Because I am. Hagoromo Gensou. The moment the name Hagoromo Gensou was uttered, the Valley of the End fell into complete silence. B. Get AI to retreat. You guys cannot complete this mission alone, Jayaki said gravely to Killer Bee. Though it hadn't encountered Jensu directly, the name reminded Jayaki of a man who left a lasting impression, Hashirama. For the tailed beasts, who symbolized destruction and disaster, being handled like toys by Hashirama was unforgettable. Jayaki didn't want to face another legend who fought fiercely with Hashirama. Hearing this, Killer Bee finally became serious. But he did not try to persuade his brother. Knowing his brother's character, he simply gripped his swords, ready for orders. Sure enough, though shocked by Jensu Hagoromo's possible resurrection, the proud Raikage wouldn't be scared into retreating. Throwing off his white cloak, revealing his muscular, dark-skinned body, the fourth Raikage's face was full of determination and fighting spirit. He shouted at Jensu Hagoromo. Whether you're truly resurrected or not, I'll send you back to where you belong. Oh, really? Jensu tilted his head slightly and calmly said 3 words. You think so? Attack. The fourth Raikage, eyes cold, shouted and led the elite cloud ninjas into the attack. Lightning release, lightning pillar. Immediately, several cloud ninjas clapped their hands, an intense lightning burst from their bodies, covering Jensu Hagoromo's vision. This move, appearing to hinder vision, was actually meant to use the intense light as cover to subtly place the target in a genjutsu. Many ninjas unfamiliar with this technique would easily fall into the trap. Jensu chuckled, not bright enough, add more power. The intense light grew stronger. Simultaneously, a burly figure, backlit by the lightning, charged with violent lightning towards Jensu. The familiar heavy flow. Seeing this, Jensu's eyes flashed with nostalgia. Then, clap. A steel-like hand firmly caught the incoming massive elbow. Raikages, always inheriting the same impatience. Jensu calmly said to the close-up fourth Raikage, since you arrived first, I'll use you as a tribute. What nonsense are you talking about? Unaware of the meaning, the fourth Raikage's other hand turned into a knife and slashed fiercely. Boom! A massive pit formed under their feet due to their forceful clash. Standing amidst it, with the surrounding space straining under the pressure, Jensu looked at the fourth Raikage, whose hand he still held firmly, and said. A legendary return requires flowers and applause for a grand spectacle. With Cloud Ninja blood in the Raikage's hand, don't you think that's grand enough, fourth Raikage? The fourth Raikage finally understood what Jensu meant. You bastard! Enraged, he was about to unleash more lightning release chakra. Jensu suddenly stepped forward, swung his shoulder, and threw the fourth Raikage hard. In the next second, he turned his body and intercepted a series of slashes from all directions with a kunao in his palm. Yo-yo able to block those? How about 7 swords? Unleash the glory of my grand dance. Killer Bee's strange voice came out as he saw Jensu intercept the first 2 blades. Seeing that 2 swords were ineffective, Killer Bee's body shook, and 7 swords shot out. Clamping them with various body parts, Killer Bee twisted his entire body, using a bizarre taijutsu style to attack Jensu with fast and unpredictable angles. Rib. A black cloak was slashed, and Jensu narrowly avoided a sword coming from an unexpected angle, commenting, "Good swordsmanship. But not grand enough." Chapter 47. Acrobat. Killer Bee's self-created sword technique. To receive such praise from Jensu indicated just how formidable the technique was. No wonder Sasuke, with his Manjiki Sharingan and self-assured attitude, almost questioned his life after facing this technique. No wonder Samui chose this unserious guy as her swordsmanship teacher. The last swordsmanship that earned such praise from Jensu was from a man named Hitaki during the Warring States period. Unfortunately, the only descendant of that Hitaki family abandoned the family's swordsmanship to honor his comrades. Hitaki's swordsmanship may never shine again in the ninja world. Seeing Killer Bee step forward again, swinging his 7 swords like a whirlwind, Jensu glanced at his black cloak. "This is my only cloak, it can't be torn again." He spoke and made a single hand sign. Magnet release, metal manipulation. In an instant, Killer Bee felt his 7 swords vibrate uncontrollably. Before he could react, with a whoosh, the 7 swords completely disregarded their master and flew away. At that moment, Killer Bee felt like he had been abandoned by a goddess, left as a mere mortal. He howled, "No, no! Come back!" It was useless. Under Jensu's control, the 7 swords flew at high speed towards the approaching 4th Raikage, while he himself stepped forward, darting towards the unarmed Killer Bee. This is the embarrassing part of taijutsu in the world of Naruto. You could say it's powerful, and it truly is. But even the mighty Night Guy, at the cost of one's life, could only land a hit on Madara with the assistance of Flying Thunder God and Kamui. As for the final blow, it was more that Madara wanted to experience it firsthand. Although it's called the most powerful taijutsu, Madara immediately recovered, standing as strong as ever. Pure taijutsu has significant limitations. Like now, Jensu effortlessly broke Killer Bee's proud sword technique with magnet release, forcing him to retreat. Water release, water dragon bullet technique. Lightning release, thunderbolt. 2 cloud ninja cast their jutsu, combining them into a thunder water dragon bullet, aiming to stop Jensu. Jensu extended his left hand, fingers spread. In an instant, the incoming thunder water dragon bullet was absorbed into his palm. Without hesitation, Jensu redirected the attack towards Killer Bee, sending the thunder water dragon bullet hurtling towards him. "B. I know." Killer Bee responded to Jayaki, and his right hand swelled, transforming into a massive octopus tentacle, blocking the thunder water dragon bullet. Boom! A violent wave of energy spread, carrying rain and lightning in all directions. Shattering the 7 swords in his grip, the 4th Raikage charged towards Hagoromo Gensou, shouting to his subordinates, "Don't use long-range jutsu. Use sea battle formation." Yes. The 5 cloud ninja who accompanied the AB combination were all elites. Upon receiving the 4th Raikage's order, they swiftly took their positions, rushing towards Jensu alongside their leader. The first to reach him was the massive, ever-expanding octopus tentacle of the semi-transformed Killer Bee. Boom! The ground split under the impact. Jensu dodged, then countered the combined attacks of the cloud ninja, but the 4th Raikage was already upon him like a lightning bolt. Clang! 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 The sounds of metal clashing filled the air as Jensu and the 4th Raikage exchanged blows at a speed barely perceptible to the human eye. Seizing an opportunity, Jensu grabbed A's arm, using dark release to absorb his chakra. Surprisingly, A didn't resist but instead gripped Jensu's arm with his other hand, using his immense strength to crash forward. Boom! Jensu's feet dug trenches in the ground, fresh blood seeping from his wounds, soaking into his black cloak. In his injured state, he couldn't withstand much impact. In his prime, this fight would be much easier. But this is the feeling he wanted. Pain. Thrill. Excitement. Euphoria. Chakra pulsed, muscles swelled, wounds tore open. Only this way. He could clearly feel that he was truly alive in this world. Come on. Dance to your heart's content. Entertain me. Jensu advanced towards A with great strides. You think I'm afraid of you? With his extensive battle experience and realizing Jensu's odd state, A cracked his neck, charging forward like an unstoppable force. Not only that, the 5 cloud ninja, having been repelled, charged at Hagoromo Gensou again, leaving no room for evasion. This is the moment. Eight Tails technique, ink clone. From his stomach, Killer Bee spat out a large amount of ink, mixed with sealing jutsu, covering the entire area around Hagoromo Gensou. The stronger the enemy, the more effective sealing jutsu. Jensu didn't dodge. He simply looked up at the descending ink rain. The chakra he had absorbed from A quickly evaporated from his body. In the next instant. Crack! 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 It was a clear, sunny day. In an instant, it turned freezing cold. Before the astonished eyes of the Cloud Ninja, the descending ink rain froze instantly, forming a massive ice sheet in midair. This was just the beginning. With Jensu at the center, a thick layer of ice spread from the ground, rapidly expanding in all directions. The Cloud Ninja couldn't avoid it, helplessly watching as the ground turned to ice, freezing everything in its path. Their bodies quickly followed suit. From their feet to their legs, from their legs to their waists, until their entire bodies were encased in ice. This is ice release. One Cloud Ninja, who had fought a member of the Yuki clan, exclaimed in shock. He had never seen such terrifying ice release. Struggling to escape, he saw a figure appear before him and felt a slight tap. Crack! The Cloud Ninja's body shattered into countless ice shards, scattering in the wind. One down, Hagoromo Gensou said calmly. Chapter 48. The countless ice crystals shattered into dazzling fragments under the sunlight, creating a scene of spectacular beauty. However, to the Cloud Ninja, it was nothing but a chilling horror. As Jensu, like the Reaper himself, sent one Cloud Ninja after another to their doom, there was a loud bang. The fourth Raikage's body trembled, and the massive lightning release chakra, comparable to that of a tailed beast, exploded from him, shattering the thick ice within a 5-meter radius into pieces. B. The fourth Raikage roared, transforming into a streak of blue lightning, charging towards Jensu. In sync with his brother, Killer Bee reverted to his human form, his body enveloped in the deep red chakra of the Eight Tails, becoming a red lightning bolt that sped towards Jensu. From left and right, the duo accelerated to such a speed that even Jensu could barely track them. Just as Jensu was about to form a hand sign, preparing to counter. Lariat. With impeccable timing, the AB combo raised their massive arms, striking like gigantic hammers, and with the momentum of their powerful charge, they aimed to smash Jensu's head. Before Jensu could react, like countless other ninjas who faced the AB combo's deadly move, his head flew into the air. Yet, there was no hint of triumph on the faces of the fourth Raikage and Killer Bee. When did he? Seeing the headless body of Jensu transform into an ice clone and the decapitated head into an ice sculpture, the fourth Raikage's eye twitched. Ah! The last remaining Cloud Ninja screamed in agony. The fourth Raikage quickly turned his head to see Jensu emerging from the surface of an ice sculpture, stepping out of the ice with ease. Glancing at the decapitated ice clone, Jensu said with a hint of surprise, "Not a bad technique. It seems that the hidden cloud village hasn't been stagnant all these years." Clenching his fists, the fourth Raikage, furious, shouted, "You bastard! Stop acting all high and mighty!" Boom! Thunder roared in the sky as the fourth Raikage stomped his right foot. The earth and ice cracked beneath him, and he charged at Jensu like an unstoppable tank. Killer Bee, covered in the tailed beast cloak, charged alongside him. Ice release, icicle spears. Jensu's calm voice reached their ears. In an instant, numerous sharp, thick ice spikes shot up from beneath their feet, aiming to impale them. The fourth Raikage and Killer Bee paused, either dodging or forcibly smashing through the spikes. Seizing the moment, Jensu moved, gliding across the ice with unprecedented speed, rushing towards the AB combo. Instants later, the AB combo was sent flying, looking somewhat battered. Though Jensu's chakra seemed diminished, his fighting spirit only grew stronger. Jayaki! Seeing the situation worsen, Killer Bee shouted internally. Jayaki sighed. Though reluctant, it chose to aid its partner. Roar! As Jensu was about to pursue, a massive shadow suddenly descended from the sky. Jensu swiftly halted and retreated. Boom! The next second, a giant crater appeared on the ground. Dust surged like ocean waves in all directions as Hagoromo Gensou looked up to see the fully transformed Eight Tails. A perfect Jinchuriki. Jensu analyzed while moving to the left. With a mighty gust of wind, a massive octopus tentacle smashed where he had been standing. After missing its mark, the Eight Tails retracted its tentacle. Jensu leaped onto a nearby tentacle and ran towards the eight-tails head, effortlessly navigating the writhing appendages. Realizing the danger, the eight-tails retracted its tentacles, wrapping them around its body to form a completely sealed ball that began to spin rapidly. Tailed Beast Twister. A violent storm erupted from the eight tails, so powerful that it blew Hagoromo Gensou away and shattered the icy landscape he had created. Simultaneously, the fourth Raikage seized the opportunity. In a flash, he appeared beside the airborne Jensu, delivering a powerful punch. Whoosh! Jensu flew like a cannonball again. Now's the time. The eight tails raised its head, forming a massive tailed beast bomb in front of its mouth. The sky and earth seemed to change color at this moment. With an attack powerful enough to shatter mountains, the tailed beast bomb shot towards Jensu. The next moment, in the eight tails' expectant eyes, the tailed beast bomb dispersed instantly, leaving everything calm and quiet. How is this possible? White smoke sizzled from Jensu's outstretched palm. Feeling the newly injected chakra in his body, he smiled and said, "Quite a taste. Got any more?" Jayaki and Killer Bee's faces were filled with disbelief. He can absorb a tailed beast bomb. They were familiar with dark release. Due to Jensu's battle at the Valley of End, the Hidden Cloud Village had specifically sought out users of dark release to test the limits of its chakra absorption, conducting numerous experiments and recording the results. It was confirmed that while dark release could absorb jutsu, it had a fixed limit. A fully charged tailed beast bomb from the eight tails was beyond the absorbable range for dark release and would cause the user to explode. Unlike other Kekkei Genkai that could unleash greater power with more chakra, dark release had a definitive limit. Otherwise, dark release users would have long dominated the ninja world, instead of being nearly unheard of, save for Jensu. This was why the eight tails had chosen to attack Jensu with a tailed beast bomb. But things had gone beyond their expectations. Jensu was clearly different from other dark release users. No wonder he's a man on par with Hashirama and Madara. Although we don't know why he's in a weakened state now. We must prepare, Jayaki said. But Big Brother is still fighting, Killer Bee replied resolutely. Jayaki, let's go again. Chapter 49. Booming sounds filled the air as the ground shook violently. The massive eight tails launched another attack. Having just absorbed a significant amount of chakra, Jensu didn't pay much attention to the approaching eight tails. Ordinary ninjas would fear the colossal tailed beasts, whose thick hides rendered most jutsu as mere scratches. But for someone at his level, Jensu had plenty of ways to deal with such entities. Nevertheless, compared to the thick-skinned tailed beasts, Jensu's primary target remained the fourth Raikage. If he had promised a grand entrance with flowers and applause, he intended to deliver. The blood of the Cloud Ninjas had already transformed into the most vibrant flowers, now, only the fourth Raikage remained. Moreover, it was time to conclude the battle swiftly. Feeling the pain from various parts of his body and seeing the black cloak stained with his blood, Jensu, having had his fill of excitement, decided to finish the fight. Boom! 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 The ground was pounded into craters one after another. With the help of the eight tails, the fourth Raikage, aware of Jensu's deteriorating state but still reckless, continued to engage in head-on clashes. Finally, after yet another blow from the eight tails tentacle, aided by Jensu's counterforce, the dust stirred more intensely than ever. The fourth Raikage, undeterred, charged forward once more. Amidst the thick yellow dust that partially obscured his vision, the fourth Raikage aimed another precise punch at Jensu's head. As before, Jensu caught the fourth Raikage's incoming punch with one hand and thrust his other hand forward. The fourth Raikage was ready to intercept it. Suddenly, Jensu's palm flipped, and a black rod extended from his hand, piercing through the fourth Raikage's palm and continuing to pierce his chest before he could react. The fourth Raikage coughed up blood, his face filled with disbelief. What? What is this thing? His expression stemmed not only from the unexpected black rod but also from the disruption of his chakra at the pierced areas, rendering them temporarily unusable. This worsened his already dire situation. Jensu didn't bother explaining. Leaving the black rod impaled through A's hand and chest, he released it and moved his hand again, producing another black rod. He held it and aimed it directly at A's chest. Black rods were elementary manifestations of yin-yang release. Unlike Payne, who could mass-produce black rods thanks to the Rinnegan, Jensu found that his understanding of yin-yang release had deepened after experiencing death and resurrection. Although he hadn't reached the level of creating and animating beings from nothing, he could now produce black rods, a basic application of yin-yang release. Using this for the first time, Jensu had caught the fourth Raikage off guard and inflicted severe damage. Everything happened too quickly. Covered by the swirling dust, Killer Bee hadn't noticed his brother's plight. When he saw the second black rod coming at A without any respite, A's pupils constricted. With his chakra in disarray and both hands impaled, he managed to raise his other hand just in time. Splat! Blood splattered. In the next instant, both of A's hands were impaled by the black rods. With both hands disabled, A had no fight left in him. Jensu extended his other hand. Amidst the dazzling lightning, the sound of 1,000 birds chirping filled the air. Big brother! Finally realizing something was wrong, Killer Bee swung an octopus tentacle towards Jensu. The severely wounded fourth Raikage, unable to speak, retreated rapidly. Jensu moved even faster. With a flash of lightning, he severed the incoming tentacle and continued his charge. The fourth Raikage remained calm, quickly making a decision. Time seemed to rewind as a severed arm flew into the air. Jensu looked up and saw an octopus tentacle whisking away the severed arm in A. Chidori Senbon! Jensu waved his hand, and countless lightning chakra needles shot out, quickly catching up to A. In an instant, blood poured from A's body like a gory fountain. Jensu was about to continue his pursuit when the eight tails, having thrown A far away, rapidly formed multiple small-tailed beast bombs in its mouth. A barrage of many-tailed beast bombs. Dozens of many-tailed beast bombs shot towards Jensu. Unlike before, these small bombs detonated before reaching him, having learned from previous experience. Boom! 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 The intense explosions created wave after wave of powerful shockwaves, forcing Jensu to halt. Once the impediments were gone, he looked up again, only to see Killer Bee, now in human form, carrying his severely injured brother far away. Cough! Cough! Heavy coughs suddenly erupted from Jensu's mouth. Covering his mouth, he saw his hand drenched in fresh blood. Is this my limit? In the Battle of the Valley, facing Hashirama's Buddha, he was already heavily wounded. Without his no-seal healing ability, recovery in a short time was nearly impossible. After the intense battle, he had reached his limit. Standing up straight, Jensu wiped the blood on his black robe. It seemed they had luck on their side. Watching the two figures rapidly disappear into the distance, he shook his head and chose not to pursue. Regardless, he had fulfilled his promise at the beginning of the battle. Jensu looked at the cloud ninjas turned into blooming flowers and the severed arm of the fourth Raikage. With the flowers and applause in place, this grand opening ceremony was complete. Now, it was time to see how the ninja world would react. At the end of the Warring States period and the beginning of the village era, alongside Hashirama and Madara, the clan head of the Hagoromo clan, a man who stood on par with gods, the creator of the Battle of the Valley of End that left one Kage dead and another wounded. That man, previously only mentioned in history and texts, had walked out of the underworld and once again set foot on the grand stage of the current ninja world. Upon hearing this news, the 5 great ninja villages and various factions in the ninja world would undoubtedly be slightly shocked. Jensu looked forward to that. As for secretly resurrecting and avoiding detection, that was never his style. Perhaps that approach suited those destined for greatness, like Madara, who lived in hiding for decades, evolving the Rinnegan and orchestrating numerous plots. But that wasn't his way. Otherwise, he wouldn't have killed so many scumbags for his satisfaction, earning the deep hatred of the world's true rulers, the daimyo and nobles, who used their power and influence to mobilize the 5 great ninja villages. It could be said that those people contributed significantly to the Battle of the Valley of End. People, after all, remain youthful at heart even until death. Despite the severe beating, Jensu didn't want to change his mindset. After all, it wasn't him who was wrong, it was the world. Moreover, it's not me who should tremble. It's the world. Chapter 50. The thought of how the current Kage would react to his revival made Jensu burst into laughter. But soon, another coughing fit interrupted his amusement. Although he had successfully resurrected, his body remained in the severely injured state it had been in after the Battle of the Valley of End against Hashirama. The recent fight with the contemporary AB combo had pushed him to his limit. As for why he hadn't waited longer, Jensu had previously examined his injuries. Many were complex and couldn't be healed in a short time. To lure the Cloud Village's big fish without exposing Samui, the sooner the information was relayed, the better. With Hashirama and Madara gone, even in his severely injured state, he wasn't afraid of anyone in the current ninja world. Overall, today's grand event had gone quite well. Jensu glanced at his spoils. The common cloud ninjas didn't matter much, but the severed arm of the renowned 4th Raikage held significant value, mirroring the position of the 1st Raikage's severed arm from the past. In the coming days, the ninja world would undoubtedly be in turmoil. For Jensu, there were a few key things to focus on. Firstly, he needed to heal. He couldn't afford to overexert himself for a while. Secondly, he had to consider the issue of completing his soul. A fragmented soul meant diminished potential and combat strength. Unlike Orochimaru, who split his soul for immortality, Jensu needed to find a way to retrieve the soul fragments absorbed by the underworld and restore himself. Thirdly, and most importantly, he needed to continue studying the path of chakra to perfect his Kekii Tota. And then there was the matter of the system. Despite its initial malfunction and erratic behavior, it remained a golden finger. Continuing to complete its tasks might yield valuable rewards, possibly even aiding in fulfilling his greatest wish. As for seeking revenge for the past by targeting the descendants of the 5 great ninja villages and other factions, that was never a top priority. It wasn't that he was magnanimous, but once he achieved the aforementioned goals and advanced his Kekii Tota, these matters would be easily handled. Strength would solve everything. Without sufficient power, focusing solely on revenge would be putting the cart before the horse. Jensu knew exactly what he needed to do. To talk about strength alone, leaving aside the cheat like Hashirama, even with the Rinnegan and Hashirama cells, he wasn't a match for Madara. He still needed to further enhance his power. Glancing at the sky, Jensu knew it was time to act. But before that, there was an important side task he needed to do. Fine wine, delicious food, and cough. Cough. Having finally come back to life and regained all the sensations of being alive, Jensu had to reward himself, filling the 50-year void. Only then would his return to the world of the living be worthwhile. With a swift movement, he leapt to the top of his giant statue, stomped his right foot, and disappeared. In the next instant, crack! 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 Massive cracks appeared on the head of the giant Hagoromo Gensou's statue. In moments, the once majestic statue shattered into countless pieces amidst loud crashes, leaving only the Senju Hashirama statue standing alone. Statues are lifeless, but people are alive. Since Jensu had revived, there was no need for a statue to commemorate his life. From this moment on, his life would continue to be written over a long period. After more than 50 years, the ninja world was once again abuzz with news of a tremendous battle at the Valley of End. The first to learn the truth was, of course, the Cloud Village, directly involved in the incident. Next was Konoha, not because the Valley of End was in the Land of Fire, but because the border patrols had seen 2 figures resembling the AB combo rushing from the Land of Fire towards the Land of Lightning without looking back. When this information reached Konoha, Tsunade and the higher UPS were stunned. They couldn't understand why the dignified Raikage would infiltrate the Land of Fire. Was there some conspiracy? Just as Konoha heightened its vigilance, preparing for potential threats, the Cloud Village sent out a report. Not just to Konoha, but also to the Sand, Stone, and Mist villages. The report was straightforward: Hagoromo Gensou had fully revived, and the Raikage had lost an arm. The 4th Raikage had no intention of hiding it. With one arm severed, he couldn't conceal the truth. Moreover, the revival of the legendary Jensu was too significant an event for the Cloud Village to handle alone. Everyone knew that the Battle of the Valley of End had involved all 5 Kage. With Jensu's revival, the Cloud Village would suffer first. Did the other villages think they would remain unscathed? By sharing the information, the Cloud Village was essentially saying that no one could remain uninvolved. At Konoha, in the Hokage's office, preparations for the 5th Hokage's inauguration were in full swing. Tsunade, who had just returned and hadn't yet had the chance to don the Hokage's hat in front of the villagers, found herself immediately swamped with work. Seeing the mountain of documents on the desk, Tsunade regretted listening to Naruto and Jiraiya's persuasion. But it was too late to back out now. She had no choice but to transform into a stamp machine, occasionally sneaking a nap on the desk. However, the news from the Cloud Village completely shattered her sleepiness that day. Jensu has fully revived? Are they sure they weren't drunk when they sent this report? Tsunade stood up abruptly, slamming her hand on the Cloud Village's report. Her mature yet youthful face was filled with disbelief. Beside her, Jiraiya nodded gravely: based on the investigation by the team we sent to the Valley of End, there was indeed a fierce battle there. The scene had traces of lightning release, tailed beast chakra, and ice release. Comparing the evidence, it matches the Cloud Village's report that Jensu fought the 4th Raikage and Killer Bee. Considering the Raikage's severed arm and the AB combo's retreat, we can conclude. At this point, Jiraiya's voice faltered. Having personally fought Jensu's Edo Tensei form, he knew that the former's displayed power wasn't enough to force the AB combo into such a dire situation. Therefore, there was only one explanation. Hagoromo Gensou has truly revived. Chapter 51. Hagoromo Gensou has really been resurrected. In the Hokage's office, besides Tsunade and Jiraiya, Shizuan, now the Hokage's secretary, was also present. Upon hearing Jiraiya reveal the truth, the office fell into a dead silence. In the current shinobi world, how many could force the renowned duo, A and B, to flee with severed arms? And then there was the ice release. The Yuki clan had long been annihilated by Kirigakuer, with the sole survivor having already perished in the Land of Waves. Combining the information that Jensu possesses ice release, the truth was already evident. How can a person who has been dead for over 50 years be resurrected? Even with Edo Tensei, it shouldn't achieve this result. How did he manage it? As a medical master, Tsunade, who understood life and death better than most, was utterly perplexed after her initial shock. While she had saved many lives and brought back many who were said to be claimed by death, the so-called claimed by death was more like on the verge of death. In the true boundary between life and death, not even she, the most skilled medical ninja, could cross it. Tsunade-sama. At this moment, Shizuan suddenly thought of something and her face changed. Could it be related to the spirit transfer technique? The spirit transfer technique. Mentioning this, Tsunade's temper flared up. It wasn't directed at Shizuan, but at Jensu. That guy, once a peer of her grandfather and Madara, ended up using such despicable means to steal others' techniques. If she had been on the scene at that time, she would have punched him hard. But things had come to this point. Tsunade quickly suppressed her anger and frowned in deep thought. The spirit transfer technique can detach the soul from the body and kill from a distance. But that's still far from resurrection. Jiraiya stroked his chin. At this moment, he suddenly thought of Orochimaru. Maybe Jensu developed a technique similar to Orochimaru's living corpse reincarnation, which allowed him to come back to life. And the reason he sought the reanimation technique might be to complete the final piece of the puzzle regarding the soul. Given the unclear circumstances surrounding how Jensu's body maintained its vitality, this was the most Jiraiya could think of. A technique similar to living corpse reincarnation. Tsunade understood. For someone like Jensu, who emerged victorious from the Warring States period, using any method to come back to life was not surprising. Another Orochimaru-like individual. No, Jensu is even more dangerous than Orochimaru. Tsunade frowned even more. Jiraiya, what do you think an old guy like him would do after going through all this trouble to come back to life? Now that she had transitioned from being a gambler to the Hokage, the burden on her shoulders was very heavy, and she had to consider all possibilities. Hearing this, Jiraiya shook his head with a bitter smile. How could I know what someone like him is thinking? I just hope that his presence doesn't cause the hard-won peace in the shinobi world to fall into chaos again. Just him alone. Tsunade crossed her arms and scoffed. How could one person conquer the entire shinobi world? Even her grandfather couldn't do it. Let alone Jensu, who was defeated by her grandfather. Kumigakuer clearly doesn't think so. Jiraiya's expression grew serious as he handed over a document from Kumigakuer to Tsunade. Kumigakuer sent an official communique, requesting a 5 Kage summit. A 5 Kage summit. Tsunade was instantly stunned. The same reaction came from the female Mizukage, Mei. A 5 Kage summit? Has the Raikage been so traumatized by Jensu that he proposed such an idea? Shocked by the news of Jensu's resurrection, Mei shook her head upon hearing Kumigakuer's desire to convene a 5 Kage summit. Though Kirigakuer had long-standing animosity with Jensu, she had never considered calling a 5 Kage summit specifically to deal with one person. What is a 5 Kage summit? It is the highest level power meeting in the shinobi world. It had only been convened once in several decades. That meeting established the new order of the shinobi world after the Warring States period, which has continued to this day. As for convening a summit to attack Jensu, it ultimately serves to maintain and perfect the established order of the shinobi world. To convene another summit now just to deal with one person would make the 5 great shinobi villages look bad. Even after 3 shinobi world wars, the collective strength of the 5 great shinobi villages is much stronger now than during the era of the first Hokage. The young and spirited 5th Mizukage, Mei, decided to put the idea of the 5 Kage summit aside and instructed, "Now, we can focus all our efforts on investigating Jensu, right?" Her subordinates had no objections. Although Jensu was very powerful, the village could test him countless times. No matter how strong an individual is, they always have weaknesses. If there are weaknesses, they can be targeted and exploited. At that point, even gods can be killed. This belief was firmly held by modern shinobi who had not experienced the chaos of the Warring States period. In Uegakure. Unlike the shock in Konoha and the aggressiveness of Kirigakure upon receiving the idea of a 5 Kage summit, Tsunagakure, which had just found the body of the 4th Kazekage, was too busy dealing with the aftermath and worrying about the selection of the 5th Kazekage to care about external affairs. Upon receiving the information from Kumagakure, the 3rd Tsuchikage, Onaki, fell into a long silence. His subordinates did not urge him, patiently waiting like rocks for the leader who had guided Uegakure for decades to think things through. No matter what decision he made, they would execute it without question. Such a display would be considered good by most leaders. But Onaki, observing all this, sighed faintly. He wished someone would step forward with their own opinion rather than just nodding in agreement. "There's no one to succeed me." Onaki shook his head, continuing to bear the burden himself, placing hope in the younger generation. Kuratsuka seemed promising. And Deidara? Forget it, the rebellious disciple who betrayed the village for his so-called pursuit of art was infuriating to even mention. A disciple who was once a candidate for the future 4th Tsuchikage chose to defect for the sake of art. In over 70 years of life, Onaki had never encountered such an oddity. Tsuchikage-sama. At this moment, his son Kitsuki, after much thought, cautiously asked what they should do next. What to do? Onaki's eyes suddenly lit up, asking a question that no one expected. Do we have any news on the whereabouts of the Hagoromo clan? Chapter 52. Extra Chapter. Just for you. Onaki's question naturally had no immediate answer. Returning to the 5 Kage summit. A meeting of such significance couldn't be convened with just a word. Each major village had its own important matters and demands. Unless the knife was at their throats. For instance, like the Akatsuki's rampant collection of tailed beasts, or if Jensu had done something to deeply wound the 5 great shinobi villages. Otherwise, it would be difficult to reach a consensus in a short time. Compared to the massive 5 great shinobi villages, other forces were much more straightforward. Soon, Jensu's portrait appeared on the black market, along with a staggering bounty of 800 million. This time, however, the bounty requirement was no longer for his corpse but for Jensu alive or the secret of his resurrection. For those powerful figures who were not shinobi, upon hearing the news of Jensu's resurrection, their first concern was not the shift in the shinobi world's balance but the possibility of resurrection. Who wouldn't want a second life? Especially those who lacked nothing material and feared death the most. So, 1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion, add more bounty money. As long as they could obtain the secret of resurrection. Money was never a problem. Such a massive amount of money, combined with the mystery of resurrection, indeed attracted a large number of bounty hunters. Though they had heard Jensu was formidable, so what? If he's human, he can be killed. Maybe with a stroke of luck, they could claim this massive fortune. At this moment, in a bounty office disguised as a public toilet, a group of fierce-looking bounty hunters excitedly pointed at Jensu's bounty. Until a crisp bell rang from behind. Their expressions changed abruptly, and they fell silent with trepidation. Ding ding! Kakuzu, wearing a conical hat and a black cloak with red clouds, carrying a box filled with money obtained from exchanging a corpse, walked towards the bounty board out of habit, looking for a new target. Seeing this, the bounty hunters instinctively made way for this legendary figure. No one knew how long Kakuzu had been a bounty hunter. Even the oldest bounty hunters vaguely remembered that Kakuzu was already there when they started. Once, someone tried to trouble him, thinking that with so many years of bounty hunting, the amassed wealth must be astronomical. However, they ended up as corpses, adding to Kakuzu's fortune. Over time, Kakuzu became a taboo in the black market, and no one dared to offend him. But today, the legendary Kakuzu, upon seeing the sky-high bounty of 800 million, couldn't help but breathe rapidly for a few moments. However, upon seeing the identity of the target, he quickly calmed down and did not record it in his little book as usual. Taking a deep look at the vivid and lifelike portrait of Jensu, Kakuzu silently turned and left. As one of the few people still alive from the Warring States period, Jensu might not know him, but Kakuzu knew Jensu well. After the cold winds of the assassination attempt on Hashirama, resulting in Hashirama merely patting him on the shoulder and telling him to live well, Kakuzu no longer followed orders but lived solely for money. He clearly understood the difference between making money for a short time or a lifetime. It was best not to take on such a hot potato. As for the secret of resurrection, mastering the earth grudge fear technique meant he was no longer fully human, and with a long life ahead, he wasn't concerned about it. Ding ding! As Kakuzu walked out of the stinking public toilet, his impatient partner Haiden, holding his nose, said, "Finally out. Kakuzu, can't you choose a better place to collect money?" "No," Kakuzu said calmly. "Evil atheist." Haiden could only curse. Kakuzu glanced at him. Just as Haiden couldn't do anything to him, he couldn't kill Haiden either. Otherwise, he would have long killed his partner and taken the corpse for money. Unaware that the bounty he coveted was just within reach, Haiden said, "The boss has summoned us for a meeting." "What's the matter?" Kakuzu asked. Haiden shrugged, "Something big happened recently, I guess." "Who knows?" Kakuzu thought of Jensu. The so-called big event must be related to him. "Lord Madara! Lord Madara! Have you heard? Your good friend is resurrected." In a cold tower, the masked man, Obito, who was silently watching the endless cold rain outside, heard White Zetsu's voice behind him and turned around in confusion. "A good friend resurrected? What do you mean?" He had no good friends now. If he did, it would be those friends from his days as Obito, now severed ties. Like Kakashi. But those guys weren't dead. Hagoromo Gensou. Someone from your time has come back to life. White Zetsu gave the answer with a grin, while Black Zetsu frowned deeply. Hagoromo Gensou. Obito thought, who is he? As a poor student, he had no interest in shinobi history. During his time with Madara, the old man had no interest in mentioning someone who was dead and no longer a threat. So, Obito, disguised as Madara, knew nothing about Jensu. Black Zetsu, aware of Obito's true nature, explained briefly, a person from Madara's time, someone he held in high regard. Obito immediately understood. His exposed eye narrowed slightly, catching the key point, without the Rain Tensei, how did this person come back to life? Black Zetsu's voice turned grave, unknown. This was precisely what concerned it. The plan to save its mother was progressing smoothly. The last thing it wanted was unexpected events. And now, Jensu's resurrection was precisely such an unexpected event. The 5 great shinobi villages were very concerned, and it worried that Jensu's appearance might disrupt the plan. Obito also considered this, about to say something when a phantom figure appeared before him. The newcomer spoke. Madara-sama. Chapter 53. With orange hair, Payne, who was once thought by conspiracy theorists to be the 4th Hokage, appeared in front of Uchiha Obito and asked in a flat tone. Madara-sama, do you know anything about Jensu? Obito's face stiffened momentarily, but the spiral mask concealed everything. He quickly responded in his usual enigmatic tone, an old acquaintance. Payne continued, is there a possibility of recruiting him into Akatsuki? Hearing this, Black Zetsu subtly shook its head at Obito. Understanding the signal, Obito replied, unless you are willing to hand over everything you have to him. I understand. Payne's face remained expressionless. Now self-proclaimed as God, there was no way he would hand over everything to another. Since he's an old friend of Madara-sama, I'll leave this person to you to handle. Ensure he doesn't interfere with our plans. You don't have to say it. I'm also eager to meet this old friend, Obito replied deeply. Payne nodded. Before his phantom disappeared, he asked again, by the way, do you know how Jensu was resurrected? That's something I really want to know too. This time, Obito answered sincerely. Then I'll leave it to you, Madara-sama. Payne gave Obito one last look before his phantom dissipated. Afterward, Obito turned to Black Zetsu, and Black Zetsu looked back at him. Obito's eyes narrowed as he instructed, I want to know all of Jensu's movements. Such a troublesome individual suddenly appearing gives me a sense of unease. I understand. Black Zetsu nodded empathetically and then sank into the ground. Left alone, Obito muttered to himself, resurrection. Rin. Even if it succeeded, what would it achieve? In this flawed world, it would only lead to another tragedy. So, no one can stop me from completely changing this shinobi world. Meanwhile, atop the Gedo statue's fingers, 6 phantoms were chatting. Deidara, with his golden spiky hair, complained, "What the hell? Why does the leader like to hold meetings like the old man? I was in the middle of creating a new art piece. This disrupts my inspiration, humph. What's so great about art? Deidara-kun, why not join me in believing in Jashin-sama?" Haiden, never missing a chance to preach, tried to recruit Akatsuki's talents with enthusiasm. "You bastard!" Deidara immediately shifted his anger from the leader to Haiden, glaring at him fiercely, "You talentless cult leader! How dare you insult art? Bring out your so-called god, and I'll show him the greatness of art, humph!" Haiden was instantly provoked. He shouted angrily, "You little punk! How dare you insult the great Jashin-sama? Where are you? I'll cleanse you, heretic! Come on then!" Deidara taunted, "Your so-called god is worthless compared to art, humph!" Haiden retorted, "Art is just a joke. Go ask outside, how many people believe in that crap? Art is a joke." This remark not only infuriated Deidara but also made Sasori, who had been disinterested and silent, open his eyes and coldly threaten Haiden. "Haiden, insult art again, and I'll turn you into a human puppet. I'm very interested in the topic of whether an immortal body can retain consciousness after being turned into a puppet." Though Sasori and Deidara had different understandings of art, Sasori had a deep reverence for art itself and would not tolerate Haiden's insults. Seeing Deidara with backup, Haiden quickly turned to Kakuzu, "Kakuzu, your teammate is being targeted. Help me out." Kakuzu glanced at him and calmly said, "I'd also like to see if you can really die." Haiden. Not far away, Kisame, who witnessed everything, smiled and said, "What a lively organization. Unlike Kirigakure, where everyone seemed ready to stab each other in the back. What do you think, Itaki?" Itaki did not answer, his Sharingan appearing to focus on the group while his mind was elsewhere. Kisame, having spent considerable time with Itaki, had some understanding of his often silent partner. Unbothered, Kisame continued, "Still thinking about the 9 tails? The leader won't blame you for not capturing it under those circumstances. Or, are you thinking about your brother?" Kisame looked at Itaki, his shark-like face forming a peculiar smile. "It's curious that you, who slaughtered the entire Uchiha clan, would spare your brother twice now." Itaki finally reacted, speaking slowly, "I'm thinking about someone else." "Oh? Who?" "Hagoromo Gensou. That guy." Kisame habitually touched the imaginary same hata on his back, reminiscing. "Speaking of him, Kirigakure has a profound impression. I remember many times in the academy, the teachers would gnash their teeth mentioning him, as if all of Kirigakure's misfortunes were his fault. Not addressing their own problems, but blaming the dead. What a joke!" Kisame said disdainfully. Itaka gave Kisame a deep look and calmly said, "Is that why you defected from the village?" "There were many reasons." Kisame smiled. "Anyway, the legendary Jensu's return means the shinobi world won't be peaceful. I'm curious to see what Kirigakure is like now." "You enjoy chaos?" Itaki asked indifferently. Kisame replied, "It's not that I like it, it's the organization that likes it." Itaki nodded in understanding. At this moment, Payne and Conan's phantoms appeared before them. Without wasting words, Payne issued orders, "The shinobi world will be very unsettled soon. It's time for Akatsuki to expand its operations." As Kisame said, Akatsuki's initial mission was to amass a large amount of money. For this, Akatsuki functioned as a mercenary organization, deliberately inciting small wars, monopolizing war commissions from small countries at low prices, then expanding the war for greater profit. With the news of Jensu's resurrection shaking the shinobi world and drawing attention, it was the perfect time for these schemers to rise. Payne issued a series of tasks to accelerate Akatsuki's ultimate plan. Before the meeting ended, Itaka specifically asked, "How should we deal with Hagoromo Gensou?" Payne looked at him indifferently. "Ignore him. Disperse." In an instant, the space before the Gedo statue became empty and cold once again. Chapter 54. Ding! Mission issuing. Main mission, become the leader of the 4 delinquents. Mission description: although the host has started to rise in the Ninja Academy by defeating Uzumaki Naruto, the attention of teachers and classmates is still not on the host. Defeating the tail end is not enough, the host decides to target the 4 delinquents. Defeat Nara Shikamaru, Akimichi Koji, Uzumaki Naruto, already completed, and Inyazuka Kaiba to elevate the host's status and dominate the Ninja Academy. Mission hint: this mission is a main mission, cannot be refused, and cannot be avoided. Ding! Ding! Mission issuing. Side mission: childhood sweetheart. Mission description: school days wouldn't be complete without elements of romance. Even Uchiha Sasuke is loved by many female classmates, and the tail end Naruto is liked by the esteemed Hyuga Hinata. The host, aspiring to become the king of the Ninja Academy, refuses to be outdone and decides to choose a female classmate as a romantic interest. The mission will be completed if the chosen female classmate develops significant affection for the host. Side missions are optional, the host can choose to accept or reject. Failure carries no penalty, success will grant rewards. Side mission reward: glamour technique, regardless of gender, everyone loves beauty. This technique allows the host to maintain optimal appearance, free from the negative effects of gray hair, wrinkles, dirt, etc. A series of system notifications flooded Jensu's mind. Relaxing in a hot spring bath at an inn, Jensu pulled off the towel covering his face, opened his eyes, and looked at the white steam surrounding him, raising an eyebrow. I was just wondering why the system was silent. Didn't expect new missions to come, and 2 at once. Jensu reviewed the missions in his mind. The first main mission was nothing special. Since it was about dominating the Ninja Academy, defeating Uzumaki Naruto and then taking on other notable students like Nara Shikamaru and others was a logical progression. But the side mission, a reward for completion, no penalty for failure, seems pretty good. But the mission content? Developing romantic feelings with a girl about 10 years old? System, what were you thinking? Instinctively wanting to reject it, Jensu hesitated when he saw the reward, a technique related to maintaining his appearance. Always mindful of his appearance, Jensu's eyes gleamed. Ahem. Unlike the main mission, the side mission's reward is clear from the start. Its significance is worth considering. Since there's no penalty for failure, I might as well give it a shot. With a serious demeanor, Jensu accepted the side mission in his mind and stood up. Splash scalding hot spring water quickly slid off his perfectly proportioned body. But when the steam cleared, his body, supposedly flawless, was riddled with scars. The most severe was a deep cavity in his chest, large enough to fit half a fist. Such injuries would have been fatal for an ordinary person. Jensu could move freely and had even been quite active before, thanks to his strong physique and secret techniques to suppress the injuries. However, this was just a temporary fix. Inspecting his body, Jensu noted that although the surface wounds had healed and new flesh was growing, deeper injuries persisted. Especially the sage chakra left by Hashirama. Due to the forbidden technique Eternal Slumber preserving his vitality, this sage chakra, which should have been removable, had fused with his body over decades, making it extremely difficult to eradicate. Sage techniques. Jensu touched the prominent scar on his chest, recalling Hashirama in sage mode, descending with unmatched power. He understood the power of sage techniques. During the Warring States period, he had sought the 3 great sacred places, but their locations remained elusive. Creating a unique sage technique without any references was as challenging as perfecting the Kekkei Genkai. Focused on his Kekkei Genkai research, Jensu lacked the time and energy to create a sage technique from scratch. If it were easy, the 3 great sacred places wouldn't be the only ones with sage techniques, which weren't even suited for humans. Moreover, sage techniques required specific qualifications that very few possessed. In the Warring States period, only Hashirama mastered sage techniques. Creating a sage technique? Jensu didn't believe that Hashirama, with his Ashura reincarnation and wood release, had developed it himself. It was most likely learned from Shikotsu Forest. Since the Warring States period, only a handful of people, including Jiraiya, Naruto, and Kabuto, had learned sage techniques. Minato Namikaze had also learned it, but not enough to be effective. So, over a millennium, very few humans mastered sage techniques. Jensu wasn't sure if he'd get the chance to learn it. He was wary of the 3 ancient beings in the 3 great sacred places, who had witnessed Kagaya's conflict and infinite Tsukuyomi, and only groomed contractors like Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Instead of forcefully seizing it, he hoped the system would provide it later. For now, Jensu, unable to fully understand sage techniques, found it difficult to remove the persistent and destructive sage chakra left by Hashirama. Perhaps I should seek out medical ninjutsu information, Jensu thought as he dressed. Thanks to Tsunade's establishment of the Konoha medical system, other villages had followed suit, making medical ninjutsu far more advanced than in the Warring States period or the early village era. Even Orochimaru, whose arms were sealed, believed Tsunade could heal him, indicating the high level of modern medical ninjutsu. Times are always progressing. Technology evolves, and so does ninjutsu. The idea that modern people are inferior to ancient ones is a fallacy. Sharing this belief, Jensu left the hot spring, quickly formulating a plan. Chapter 55. After leaving the Valley of End, Jensu found himself in an ordinary town. Although the letters from the fourth Raikage, A, had unsettled the shinobi world, life for the ordinary people, who were not shinobi, continued as usual. Just like this small town, where ninjas rarely visited, the townsfolk lived their lives in peace. However, today, besides Jensu, a group of unexpected guests bearing Konoha forward protectors arrived. Sasuke, are you okay? Should we rest here for a while? Sakura asked cautiously, supporting the bandaged Sasuke. After Tsunade successfully became the 5th Hokage, Team 7, minus Kakashi due to other missions, took on a B-rank mission in the land of Tea. During this mission, they encountered the Konoha rogue ninja Rokusho Aoi, who had stolen the sword of the Thunder God. Although they managed to defeat him, Sasuke was severely injured. With no medical ninjutsu skills yet, Sakura could only perform basic bandaging, planning to provide further treatment upon their return to the village. After a long journey, noticing Sasuke's exhaustion, Sakura made the suggestion to rest. Naruto, with his usual brashness, raised his hand in agreement, yet. Sasuke, you're sweating a lot. Let's rest here. I'm hungry anyway. Let's grab something to eat. Hearing this, Sasuke's expression changed. Looking at the energetic Naruto, despite also having been injured during the mission, Sasuke felt a surge of anger. Remembering that Naruto was the main reason they defeated Aoi, while he. An unnamed rage surged within Sasuke. He coldly replied, "No. We're heading straight back to Konoha." With that, he forcefully shook off Sakura's supporting hand and walked away, gritting his teeth against the pain. Sasuke. Sakura, filled with worry, quickly followed. Naruto, scratching his head in confusion, asked, "Sasuke, are you sure you don't want to eat? How about I carry you?" Despite knowing Naruto's good intentions, Sasuke, always overthinking, clenched his fists and ignored him, continuing to walk until he looked up and saw someone approaching. Danger! In that instant, Sasuke's pupils contracted, and his Sharingan activated in response. He stopped, staring intently at the approaching figure, a cold sweat forming on his forehead. "Sasuke, what's?" Seeing Sasuke suddenly stop, Sakura, who had caught up, was about to ask when Sasuke, snapping out of it, grabbed her arm and pulled her behind him with such force that it caused her pain. "Sakura! Sasuke, you!" Seeing this, Naruto angrily rushed over, ready to scold Sasuke, but before he could, he saw someone familiar in his peripheral vision. It's you." Naruto pointed excitedly at the newcomer, though he couldn't recall the name immediately. He remembered this person had threatened Granny Tsunade and stolen a ninjutsu scroll. "You thief! Finally, I've found you." Without waiting for a response, Naruto rolled up his sleeves, ready to use his Raise-Nan. "Wait!" Naruto. Although not knowing who the person was, Sasuke sensed the danger and tried to stop Naruto. Normally, Naruto wouldn't stop once he decided to fight. But this time was different. Just as Naruto took a step forward, his body froze. It wasn't Sasuke's call that stopped him. It was. Jensu glanced their way. Just that one look. Naruto, usually fearless, found himself paralyzed, his face turning pale, and his body trembling uncontrollably. What is this? Move! Why can't I move?" Inside, Naruto screamed, but it was futile. In that moment, Naruto felt like he was back on his first mission outside the village, witnessing Kakashi being brutally cut into pieces, leaving him blank, scared, and helpless. He wanted to fight, but Jensu's single glance rendered him motionless. This guy. He wasn't like this before. Why? Why does one look from him make me like this? Naruto's mind was filled with confusion, his heart sinking. Sasuke and Sakura had similar thoughts. Sakura, unsure of what was happening, felt an indescribable pressure weighing on her, making it hard to breathe. Sweating more profusely, Sasuke barely managed to glance at the approaching Jensu. He suddenly remembered encountering Zabuza and Orochimaru. Back then, he was overwhelmed by their killing intent. It felt like a young, inexperienced wolf facing a seasoned, blood-stained alpha wolf, naturally suppressed. But this was different. Jensu exuded no killing intent. The ordinary townsfolk around them were still laughing and chatting, going about their business. Yet, that casual glance from Jensu felt like an elephant passing by an ant, unintentionally giving it an overwhelming shock. Jensu hadn't expected to encounter Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura here. He marveled at how small the world was, reminiscing as he observed the main characters' real appearances. Then, amidst their fear, worry, and disbelief, as if nothing had happened, he continued on his way, walking past them without a care. Having resurrected and returned to Konoha after 60 years, Jensu's priority was the system's missions. Considering that characters like Sasuke and Naruto would undoubtedly appear in future system missions, and likely not just once or twice, Jensu decided not to harm them now. He had even asked the system if tasks could be completed if the targets were resurrected through Edo Tensei. The system had mocked him, stating that dead people couldn't complete missions. As for why he completed the beginner mission while dead, the system explained that he had always existed. So, even dead, the system considered him alive and required him to complete missions. What a bizarre conclusion. Whatever. Jensu was used to the system's quirks. Chapter 56. 150 Power Stones reached. Let's get 300. Step. 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 The sound of normal footsteps felt like the Grim Reaper's approach to Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura, exerting immense pressure on them. They were just 3 inexperienced kids who had barely graduated from the academy. Now, no longer in Edo Tensei form but truly resurrected, Jensu only needed to release a fraction of the aura accumulated from countless battles to make their limbs tremble. Just like their teacher, Kakashi, who, despite being a Jonin, had been paralyzed with fear by Orochimaru's mere glance during his defection. Speaking of which, I still have a side mission. As Jensu passed by the 3, he remembered he had a target here. But he decided against Sakura. Even if he had to complete the mission, it couldn't go against his principles. Ignoring the chosen ones in the Sage of Six Paths eyes and the female lead who couldn't insert herself between them, Jensu continued on his way at his own pace. A minute later, Jensu had disappeared. Under the curious gazes of passers-by, Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura finally relaxed, exhaling a long breath. Naruto, the first to recover, jumped up and turned to look in the direction Jensu had gone, his face filled with frustration. How did that guy become so strong? His thick-headed nature prevented him from noticing the changes in Jensu. Moreover, with their recent mission in the Land of Tea, he was unaware of the recent events in the shinobi world. Naruto. Sakura, afraid that Naruto might try to provoke Jensu again, quickly warned him against doing anything foolish. She had been truly scared just now. Sasuke, on the other hand, though still shaken, felt an inexplicable surge of determination he couldn't suppress. Sasuke looked at Naruto. Naruto's familiarity with the man indicated he knew who he was. Without delay, Sasuke asked quickly, Naruto, who was that man just now? That guy, Naruto scratched his head, thinking for a moment before replying, I think his name is Hagoromo or something. He's as bad as Orochimaru. Let me tell you, when Erosenin and I went to find Granny Tsunade. Naruto animatedly recounted the events that took place in Tanzaku town to Sasuke and Sakura, emphasizing how despicable Jensu was. Sakura listened attentively, learning about the many stories of the 5th Hokage's return to the village. Sasuke, however, focused solely on Jensu. Hagoromo, no, it should be Hagoromo something. Such a powerful figure, why haven't I heard of him? As a member of the Uchiha clan, Sasuke should have had a broader understanding of the shinobi world. However, the massacre of his clan disrupted his elite education. Engrossed in his quest for revenge, he ignored anything unrelated to gaining power, resulting in a lack of knowledge. Sakura, on the other hand, as the only one who scored perfectly on the written exam without cheating during the Chunin exams, had read many books on shinobi. Seeing Sasuke's interest in the man and hearing Naruto's story, Sakura deduced a lot. Sasuke, that man should be Hagoromo Gensou, who died many years ago but returned to the present through some technique. Sasuke looked up sharply. Hagoromo Gensou? Dead for many years. Yes, yes. That's him. Ero Sennin even called him senpai. Naruto chimed in, nodding vigorously. Sakura pushed Naruto's head away and continued explaining to Sasuke, based on what she had read. Sasuke listened, his eyes growing brighter. After Sakura finished, Sasuke clenched his fists, looking around before saying, "Let's rest here and get some food." But Sakura was still uneasy. "Don't worry. If someone like him let us go, he won't do anything more," Sasuke reassured. Naruto, rubbing his empty stomach, agreed enthusiastically, "Don't worry, Sakura. Next time, I won't be as scared." With 2 votes for, Sakura reluctantly agreed. Soon, the three found a place to eat and ordered some food. During the meal, Sakura went to the restroom, and upon returning, she noticed only Naruto at the table. "Where's Sasuke?" Sakura asked. "He went to the restroom," Naruto replied casually. "Just went to the restroom." Sakura thought. The men's and women's restrooms were next to each other, so if Sasuke had gone, she should have noticed on her way back. Maybe it was earlier. Thinking this, Sakura sat down and waited quietly. 10 minutes later. The food was served, but Sasuke hadn't returned. "Do you think Sasuke has diarrhea?" Naruto, wanting to start eating but being stopped by Sakura, muttered. Sakura felt something was wrong and finally said, "Naruto, go check the restroom." "Hey? The restroom?" Reluctantly, Naruto complied. Soon, he returned, complaining, "Sasuke's not in there. Did he go somewhere else?" "No way." Sakura slammed her hand on the table. Naruto jumped. "Sakura, are you okay? Sasuke is acting strange." Sakura's face was serious. Recalling Sasuke's series of expressions earlier, she seemed to have figured something out. Without explaining, she grabbed Naruto and started running. "Naruto! Help me find Sasuke! Sasuke's a big guy." "Wait! We haven't paid for the food." Leaving the food and money behind, Naruto followed Sakura to find Sasuke. "Such a big place, where do we start?" Unfamiliar with the town, Naruto looked around. Sakura pointed in the direction Jensu had gone, determined, "There." Naruto and Sakura began searching for Sasuke. Meanwhile, Sasuke, as Sakura suspected, had already left their lodgings and was sprinting towards the direction Jensu had gone. 10 minutes later. In front of a street vendor selling takoyaki, he found his target. "Hey!" Jensu, receiving his hot takoyaki, turned to see Sasuke, surprised. "Uchiha Sasuke. Interesting." Chapter 57. 300 Power Stones reached. "Let's go for a million." Huff, huff, huff. The relentless sprint had made Sasuke, already severely injured, feel even worse. But he gritted his teeth and endured, his eyes fixed firmly on Jensu. With the insight granted by his Sharingan, he could distinguish between a living person and an Edo Tensei body. Combining the information from Naruto and Sakura with his own reaction to Jensu's presence, it was undeniable that this legendary figure, who once rivaled gods and overshadowed the Five Kage, had truly broken free from death and returned to the world. Such power, such an extraordinary person, even the one he hated so much couldn't compare. With this in mind, Sasuke didn't hesitate, intercepting Jensu and speaking directly, "I want to become stronger. No matter what method, as long as it makes me stronger, I'm willing to do anything you ask." Hearing this, Jensu took a bite of his takoyaki and glanced at Sasuke in surprise. He hadn't expected Sasuke to come seeking power from him. Was this kid always so bold? Wasn't he afraid Jensu would kill him? Or perhaps it was the confidence from being an Uchiha, from having the Sharingan? Jensu's guess was quite accurate. As the sole surviving member of the Uchiha clan in Konoha, bearing the powerful Sharingan, Sasuke knew he was highly coveted by people like Orochimaru, which indirectly made him understand his own importance. Things of rarity are precious. No one would ignore an Uchiha. That was his confidence. But this time was different. Jensu wouldn't pamper Sasuke. An Uchiha? He had seen plenty. In the past, when the Hagoromo and Uchiha clans had signed a friendship treaty and were essentially allies, he had encountered many Uchiha with similar personalities, possibly even Sasuke's ancestors. The Sharingan, which seemed formidable in today's shinobi world, was just another tool in his eyes. Unless it was a Mangekyo Sharingan, it wouldn't catch his attention. Kid? Has no one taught you how to properly ask for something? Jensu said, brushing past Sasuke without another glance. Despite the historical camaraderie between the Hagoromo and Uchiha clans and numerous intermarriages, Jensu had always found Madara's arrogance distasteful, though he had admired Madara's brother, Izuna. Until that wretched Tobirama had treacherously attacked and killed him. The past was the past, and the once thriving Uchiha clan was now reduced to a single survivor. For the sake of their historical alliance and Izuna's similar face, Jensu wouldn't harm Sasuke. Further cooperation, however, depended on Sasuke's actions. Seeing Jensu's dismissive attitude, Sasuke's face contorted. Consumed by hatred, his life had always been self-centered. As a proud Uchiha, even though Kakashi had taught him the Chidori, Sasuke had never called him teacher, always using his name directly. Thankfully, Kakashi, having experienced much, didn't mind. Another mentor would likely have shown Sasuke a different attitude. Hagoromo Gensou is not like Orochimaru, who covets my body and tolerates any rudeness, Sasuke quickly realized. In other matters, he might remain defiant, but for his revenge, he was willing to sacrifice everything. Thinking of his next encounter with Itachi, who would still look down on him, easily breaking his Chidori and mocking his wasted years. Recalling how Naruto defeated the rampaging one-tailed Jinchuriki Gaara during the Chunin exams, doing what he couldn't, and how, during the recent mission in the Land of Tea, Naruto was crucial in defeating Aoi Rokusho. Sasuke clenched his fists in frustration. Finally, he ran in front of Jensu again, lowering his proud head and bowing deeply. Hagoromo-sama, please teach me how to become stronger. I swear by the Uchiha name, as long as I can achieve my revenge, I am willing to do anything for you. How rare the sky cleared, the rain stopped, and Sasuke didn't feel so self-sufficient for once. Jensu stopped, finished the last of his takoyaki, and asked, Kid, do you know who I am? The legendary Hagoromo Gensou. Seems your history knowledge is lacking, Jensu remarked. If Sasuke had continued his elite education within the Uchiha clan rather than being disrupted by the massacre and then taught by lower-ranked Chunin teachers, his current strength would be higher, and he would understand the historical significance of the Uchiha clan better. For instance, the relationship between the Uchiha and Hagoromo clans. If he knew about their long-term alliance, he could play the emotional card, considering Jensu was the clan leader, and Sasuke was the sole Uchiha survivor. However, Sasuke might not even know about the Hagoromo clan, let alone the significance of his surname. Never mind. Jensu shook his head and looked at Sasuke. If you want to follow me and seek greater power, you must leave Konoha. Can you do that? Sasuke lowered his head in silence, then his eyes showed determination. Kakashi and Konoha had nothing more to teach him. Even Kakashi himself had been defeated by Itachi. Staying with them, he saw no hope. Only someone more powerful, someone even Itachi would be dimmed by, was worth following. So. Sasuke raised his head, ready to agree when he heard Naruto and Sakura calling from a distance. Sasuke! Where did you go? Sasuke! Where are you? He's been gone so long. Could he be in danger? Naruto, stop jinxing! Sasuke! The voices grew closer. Sasuke, about to agree, was suddenly flooded with memories of his time with Naruto and Sakura, making the words difficult to say. Looks like you're not fully committed, Jensu noted, noticing everything. When you're truly ready to cut all ties, come find me at the Valley of End. With that, Jensu disappeared. Sasuke, wanting to say something but too late, stared at the spot where Jensu vanished, feeling conflicted. The next second. Sasuke! Finally found you! Naruto, the first to spot Sasuke, sighed in relief and ran over, grumbling. Where did you go? We haven't even eaten. Sakura, arriving a bit later, pushed aside the complaining Naruto and asked with concern. Sasuke, are you okay? Did your bandages tear? I'm fine. Sasuke withdrew his gaze, looked calmly at Naruto and Sakura, and said. I just went for a walk. Let's go back. and find an opportunity to settle this once and for all. Chapter 59, Chapter 58. 450 Power Stones reached. Wait, that fast? Okay, next target is 600. Team 7 continued their journey back home. Out of their sight, Jensu reappeared, his eyes on the Uchiha fan emblem on Sasuke's back. If Sasuke truly followed through with what he had suggested, Jensu wouldn't mind taking him under his wing. It would be a way to repay the Uchiha clan, who had once been allies. From Samui's reports, Jensu learned that during the relocation of the Hagoromo clan, the Uchiha clan had secretly helped. Considering the people now living with the Hagoromo clan, Jensu felt confident about recruiting Sasuke. However, forcing someone against their will wouldn't yield good results. It all depended on Sasuke's own decision. No matter what, Jensu's investment would be minimal, and the potential gains could be significant. He decided to wait and see. As he watched the three figures disappear from sight, Jensu turned his gaze back to the bustling town behind him. After the second battle in the Valley of the End, despite the turmoil in the outside world, he had taken the time to rediscover the joys of being alive. With his indulgence nearly satisfied, it was time to attend to serious matters. In a flash, Jensu left the area. A day later. Upon learning from Team 7 that Jensu had been sighted, Tsunade's face changed. Relieved that Jensu had ignored the three young ninjas, she promptly dispatched Konoha Shinobi to investigate. This was the first time Jensu had truly appeared in the ninja world since the Valley of the End incident. As expected, by the time they arrived, Jensu had vanished without a trace. What is he planning? Tsunade pondered, looking out at the bustling streets. Could he just be enjoying his new life? If it were her, given a second life, she'd spend it gambling. But she was too unique to be judged by common standards. Both Tsunade and others believed that Jensu's meticulous resurrection must have a grand scheme behind it. Yet, during this period, he had shown no notable actions. Tsunade glanced at her desk, focusing on the corner of the Five Kage summit plan peeking out from under a pile of documents, deep in thought. Back at the Valley of the End. After wandering around, Jensu found this place to be the most suitable and returned. The traces of his recent battle with the AB combo still remained. In addition, there were new marks left by others. Because of his resurrection, the Valley of the End had become a hot spot for many in the ninja world. Until Konoha Shinobi, acting as local authorities, cleared out the intruders, restoring the valley's tranquility, though the initial fervor had already waned. Due to the recent attack on the village and a backlog of missions, Konoha Shinobi couldn't maintain a constant presence in the valley. After all, no one expected Jensu to return. Thus, under the principle of hiding in plain sight, Jensu returned to the Valley of the End. The statue of Hagoromo Gensou had already been destroyed by him. This time, Jensu sat atop the Senju Hashirama statue, waiting as a familiar figure approached. Lord Jensu, the blonde and cold Samui arrived and knelt respectfully as she had initially. Stand up, Jensu waved her up, asking, did you bring the items? Samui nodded and unrolled a sealing scroll she carried. With a puff of white smoke, dozens of books appeared on the scroll. According to Jensu's request, these were all medical ninjutsu books, including those from Kumigakure's own collection and what the Hagoromo clan had gathered over the years. Jensu picked up a book and began flipping through it, asking, how is Kumigakure lately? Samui reported, since the Raikage returned injured, there have been some disturbances, but his lineage holds high prestige in the village. With the Raikage soon resuming his duties, everything has returned to normal. The Raikage's physique is impressive, Jensu commented without looking up. While the Raikage's taijutsu was renowned, the foundation was his well-honed, strong body. In this regard, only the best of the Senju and Uzumaki clans could compare. Notably, Tsunade and Naruto had exceptional physiques. Senju and Uzumaki had. Jensu's physique was strong, but not to the supernatural levels of Naruto or the Raikage, who trained their bodies beyond human limits. He relied more on his steel release, a powerful Kekii Genkai. Therefore, when severely injured, he couldn't recover as quickly as Naruto or the Raikage. This was one reason he sought medical ninjutsu. At this moment, Samui, with a slightly serious tone, said, Lord Jensu, I overheard the upper echelons of Kumigakure discussing something. They mentioned the Raikage's intention to convene a 5 Kage summit, and the main topic would be you. A 5 Kage summit. Hearing this deeply ingrained term, Jensu's fingers paused mid-page. The most significant setback he had ever suffered was at the first 5 Kage summit. Those 5 treacherous old geezers. Never mind. No point in holding a grudge against the dead. Maybe someday he should visit their graves, offer some incense, dance a bit, reconnect, and express how he would continue to live happily with their blessings. Don't worry about it, it doesn't matter, Jensu resumed flipping through the book, speaking indifferently. Although the summit was the same, the participants were different. Getting the 5 great shinobi villages to set aside their differences and work together wasn't easy. In the original timeline, they united only because the Akatsuki had captured the tailed beasts from 1 to 7, wreaked havoc on Konoha, and then declared the 4th Great Ninja War at the summit. With no other choice, the villages cooperated. But the current situation was different. People were singing, drinking, and dancing. The blade wasn't fully at their throats yet, so even if the cage wanted to, the villages wouldn't cooperate smoothly. Understanding human nature, Jensu knew this well. He genuinely didn't care about the upcoming summit. At worst, another sneak attack by the 5 Kage? But this time, there was no Hashirama among them. Seeing Jensu's dismissive attitude towards the 5 Kage summit, Samui's eyes showed a hint of admiration. Noticing Jensu had finished one book and was reaching for another, she quickly conveyed a message from the clan. Lord Jensu, Elder Mutiny asked me to tell you that he wishes to meet with you. Chapter 60, Chapter 59. 6-6-600 Power Stones reached. Now let's get 750. Also my Patreon has plus 20 chapter on all my fanfics for only $5. Mutiny. A vision of a snot-nosed kid in an oversized adult ninja vest flashed through Jensu's mind. He's already an elder in the clan now. Jensu sighed. It was moments like these that made him truly realize how much time had passed, and how old he should be. No, it's just that others perceive him as old. He himself remained at his peak, in his 20s. Thus, Jensu refused to accept an age record that didn't match his physical condition. Tell Mutiny he doesn't need to move those old bones. I'll visit him sometime soon. Jensu gave his instructions, picking up another book. Yes, my lord. Samui, having received her orders, did not disturb Jensu further. Instead, she set up an incense burner, lighting a soothing fragrance, and prepared tea with a ceremonial grace befitting a clan with a 1,000-year history. Though the Hagoromo clan's customs weren't as rigid as the Hagase, they were still more refined than the Uchihas, who often solved internal disputes with brute force. Jensu didn't particularly care for these formalities, but since his subordinates went through the effort, he accepted and enjoyed them. After some time, Jensu, reading at a pace far beyond ordinary, finished several dozen books on medical ninjutsu. With a flick of his hand, green chakra enveloped his palm, radiating vitality. Seeing this, even though Samui knew her clan leader was exceptionally talented in ninjutsu, she was still shocked at how quickly he had mastered the notoriously difficult medical ninjutsu from scratch. Used to such feats, Jensu placed his right hand over one of his wounds. After observing for a while, he noted that his recovery rate had more than doubled compared to his previous methods. A very impressive medical system, much improved from the Warring States period. Jensu commented. During the Warring States period, medical ninjutsu was in its infancy and hadn't developed into a proper discipline. Severely injured individuals rarely received effective treatment, while the carnage only escalated. As a result, the average lifespan of a ninja was less than 30 years, with children as young as 5 sent into battle. The contributions of Tsunade and other medical ninjas were indeed significant. Without them, Konoha wouldn't have been able to sustain itself during the 3 Great Ninja Wars, and even the youngest academy graduates would have been forced onto the battlefield. However, the current medical ninjutsu was still insufficient for Jensu's needs. After all, the injuries inflicted by Hashirama Senju in his peak state were no trivial matter. Removing the residual sage chakra from his body, not to mention healing the deep wounds in vital organs and critical areas, required more advanced techniques than those Samui had brought. I'm sorry, my lord. This is the highest level of medical ninjutsu we could access. Samui apologized. You've done well to bring this much. Jensu did not blame Samui and the clan members. Though the Hagoromo clan was dispersed across the 5 great ninja villages, which mitigated some risks, this also made it difficult to penetrate the highest echelons of these villages. Medical ninjutsu was a strategic asset for each village, so Samui had taken considerable risks to gather these materials. Jensu then inquired about the current state of medical ninjutsu in the ninja world. As expected, Konoha, with Tsunade's foundation, was leading the field by a wide margin. This rapid recovery capability was what gave Konoha the confidence to face multiple enemies in 3 ninja wars. No wonder there were no objections when Tsunade, after years of wandering, returned to become Hokage. In addition, according to our intelligence, there is a doctor named Shin in the ninja world. His medical techniques are unconventional but highly effective. Many civilians, nobles, and even ninjas have sought his treatment and given him high praise, Samui added. Konoha. Shin. After some thought, Jensu decided that he needed a comprehensive plan for his complete recovery. Both approaches had to be pursued. He already had an idea regarding Konoha. As for Shin, knowing that the Hagoromo clan operated an intelligence network, Jensu instructed, find Shin's location as soon as possible. Yes. Samui nodded. This was the benefit of having a supporting force. If Jensu were alone, no matter how strong he was, finding someone in the vast ninja world would be like searching for a needle in a haystack, taking an unknown amount of time. But with a network behind him, it was entirely different. Like the Akatsuki's rogue ninjas, who lived with a sense of security, dressed in their uniforms and hats openly, they were protected by an extensive intelligence network provided by the White Zetsu. Without it, even the strongest among them would eventually fall to repeated assassination attempts by village hunter-nin squads, much like how the immortal duo met their demise. Jensu was grateful that the Hagoromo clan still existed, making his second life much easier. After watching Samui summon a messenger hawk from the clan and send out his request in coded form, Jensu asked. Samui, how long can you stay here? Samui had taken a nearby mission to arrange this meeting with Jensu. Hearing the question, Samui was momentarily stunned. The clan leader is asking about my free time, could it be? Samui's eyes flickered nervously as she glanced around. An isolated area, no one around, just the two of them. Suddenly, she thought of something, and her usually cold face blushed slightly. Though it was uncomfortable in such a high and open place, refusal was not an option. While she pondered whether to take the initiative or remain passive, Jensu continued. If you have time, demonstrate your skills here. I'll give you some pointers. Even though his clan members worshipped him, it wouldn't be right to treat them like workhorses without any return. The best reward Jensu could offer was guidance in their training. With his mastery of ninjutsu, his teaching skills were unrivaled. As expected, Samui was excited to the point of blushing. Of course, her composure quickly returned, and she responded coldly and expressionlessly, I have about 2 hours. End of chapter.
Thanks for listening.